Alright, so first day we're going to be doing Final Fantasy 1 through Final Fantasy 7. Let's see, we end on the last Final Fantasy 7 character, Rufus, down there. With his complete lack of burst soul break. I believe he's the only person on the list on this list that has that difficulty. And tomorrow we will do Final Fantasy 8 through Final Fantasy Tactics. So we're going to do things a little differently. Not that differently. I think we had it going on a little better with the last run. I'm just going to go from top to bottom. I was alerted that it would be nice for me to go from top to bottom, so people that are watching the video for the discussions and stuff can like seek through a video for a part that they want, because they can see this list and know where the relative point in the video is where they're going to want to find me talking about Locke, for instance. Yeah, the 6 actually became pretty necessary for this group because there is a few very, very important characters who only have access to Spellblade 5 instead of Spellblade 6, because they start out as Spellblade 4s that dive to 5, which doesn't open 6 access. That would be Cloud, Lightning, and Lunith. I believe those are the only 3. Or the important ones, at least. So I just started putting down whether or not, what their actual max ability level was. I had an original estimate on this group, but I changed it a little bit. There were some people I think I rated a little bit too high. So anyway, let's get going. So Warrior of Light, you notice, is on this list, and it's because while Warrior of Light can be a competent tank knight, he is actually a good damage dealer at the same time. So I migrated over knights from the knight list that can actually deal competent damage, and they aren't just there to be tanks. Warrior of Light with his 6-hit BSB helps him out with that. He's holy, so he can take advantage of Guardbringer, and you'll see Beatrix and Agrius on this list too because of that. So, I don't know, let's take a look at them. We have BSB-A, well, BSB-B, Legend Materia A, Complementary S. It's the S is because Warrior of Light gets everything. They just want him to do all the things, as far as being a Holy Knight is concerned. Grants X Light Bless, this is his USB, and attach Holy to the user. It seems like more something that's meant to be used with his chain, like the USB plus chain instead of USB plus anything else, because the attach Holy is a pretty big overlap between his burst soul break. But let's take a look at Light Bless. Defense 100%. Knight abilities deal 5% more damage for each knight ability used, up to 30%. That's kind of weird. The duration on that is 15 seconds. So, in the best case scenario, you're going to be doing 4 attacks. So, that up to plus 30% is kind of misleading. But still, it's fine. It's definitely meant to be used with this chain. See, as you notice, none of these things give him Sentinel. So if you're using his chain and his USB together, you do not get Sentinel. But you do a lot of damage. You get grant HP stock 2000 all allies. It's pretty good. And Warrior of Light has just a vast array of things. Like, he basically is the holy damage dealer. Well, I guess not named Orlando. And you can do it in a myriad of ways. I don't know, he's pretty good. How do I feel about him here? Probably B. While he is good at all of this, he's just, with the Light Bless, the defense increase, and the HP stock to all allies, and the Holy Chain meant to be used with a bunch of holy damage users, knights. He's just, he's your quintessential damage knight, I guess. But, is going to lag behind some of these A rankers, I think. So we're going to put him in B for now, and we'll, obviously, at the end of the list, evaluate him and see if he can bust out of B. We'll take a look at his Legend Materia. We had him rated as an A there, didn't we? Or I did. Oh, grants last stand and Sentinel at the beginning of the battle. Reduces damage taken by holy attacks by 10%. That one stinks. Grants Incast 2 at the beginning of the battle. Oh wait, that's Tyro. Okay. Attack 3%. Free hit taken up to 35%. I don't know why I have those rated as A. I guess it's the last stand and the Sentinel at the beginning of the battle. Again, both worthy knight things, but not terribly important for a damage dealer. So yeah, he's definitely... I think he's solidified his place in B. Definitely an S tier knight, but as far as damage dealing is concerned, he lags behind a bit. Next on the list we have Garland, who I mean, I've ridiculed for a while, and I felt I had good reason for it. His BSB is poop. I got it rated as D. Legend Materia A, complimentary A. That's a hell of a jump. A little bit of a disparity there. Let's go take a look at why. Knight 4 is a nice little boost because he can act as a pseudo knight by using Draw Fire and Magic Lure. But as a darkness knight, he is mostly focused on doing damage. Most of the knights that came over from the knight list are going to be darkness knights because of that. So we have his burst, Dark Rebirth. It's not really worth going into very much. It's got one of those single hit drain commands. It's just bad. Bardiche is a good Super Soul Break. Attack and defense minus 50% for 25 seconds. Group attacks. It's good. He has an OSB, breaks damage cap. Of course it does. And does a slightly higher multiplier. 0.75 multiplier if exploiting elemental weakness. Sure. Alright, I mean, here's where he gets his A in the complimentary. Is he has the Darkness Chain. And it does... You know how each chain has an added effect to it, including like high amount of attacks, then chain, then added effect. See, we have Warrior of Light with Shield of Light, high amount of attacks, 11, Holy Chain 20%, then HP stock 2000. Garland's added effect is the fact that he does 22 single attacks to start the fight, to start off the chain instead of anything else, which is interesting because the chain gets applied first. So the chain starts out at 22. That's really high. So that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. And physical darkness users get access to some decent abilities later. So having access to Life Siphon and this chain, which, honestly, I would want his Eminence of Battle Chain and Bardiche as a utility Soul Break. And I could completely forget about the fact that he has a Burst Soul Break and Discord Incarnate, the Overflow Soul Break. I don't really care about them. It really, the debuff and Eminence of Battle really are all he needs. So let's take a look at his Legend Materia. Garland, we have increases dark damage dealt by 10%, 40% chance of restoring HP to the user for 40% of the damage dealt after using a single target dark attack. This loses some effectiveness with the Life Siphon strategy. However, it does work well with the 5-star Darkness physical abilities. He could become a drain monster due to the way those abilities work. I'll go and look at those in a second because they're a pretty valuable part of what makes Garland any good at all. And his third is restores HP for 100% of the user's maximum and grants quick cast when HP falls below 20%. Yeah. It's worded like one of those trance mode things, but all it does is give him quick cast. But it is still kind of good because of the way Darkness works. Again, another reason to go take a look at the 5-star Darkness abilities. So we have 3 of them yet unreleased in Global. Soul Barrage, Dire Weapon, and Crimson Cross. Multipliers look pretty big. Let's take a look at the effects. Soul Barrage, 3, 4, 5 attacks if the user's Doom Timer is below 20 or 5. That's really bad. Yeah, that's really bad. Dire Weapon, though, 2 single attacks, 1.5 each, heals user for 20% of the damage dealt. That is a dual strike drain strike thing, and it's good. I like it. Crimson Cross, 4 single attacks, 1.05 each. That's a high multiplier, better than Guardbringer. And damages his user for 30% of max HP. And this is where his last his LMR comes into play. You don't mind damaging yourself for 30% of your max HP when you're going to heal yourself to full when you get down below 20%. Dire Weapon and Crimson Cross work together, but you wouldn't be using Garland without his chain, and you wouldn't be using his chain without one slot at least being dedicated to Life Siphon. So you only have access to one of these at a time. I would probably use Crimson Cross, the 4 single attacks, damages the user for 30% of their max HP, to work with the chain after it is cast. So you would Life Siphon, chain, and then Crimson Cross, without worrying about, dealing too much damage for yourself, because you've got ways to compensate for it. So I like Garland, but it's reliant on his chain. He's definitely on Warrior of Light tier, I think. I think Warrior of Light has more options available to him. He actually has a good burst, so just with his burst, he could be a good character. So I'm probably going to place Garland at B rank as well. Next on the list we have Wall. Non-elemental, combat 3. Oh, that's a strike against him. Support 4. Not as bad, but Wrath is not as good on physical characters as it is on mages, because Wrath introduces a 3% damage or attack buff, which will overwrite any single stat attack buffs that you have, from Shout, for instance. So you'd like to see the combat 4. Thief 5 and Shooter 5. So he dives to Thief 5. That's why he doesn't have access to Thief 6. BSB I've rated as D because it's just a full breakdown with some kooky commands. And it's bad. No Legend Materia and Complimentary B. I think I have rated Complimentary B because he has access to a good... what's it? Arc Slash? Yeah. 4 group attacks, attack magic, minus 40%. That's a good complimentary soul break. And he has a USB, which I don't really care for. just because it's conditions. This little wood thing we got here called Crash minus 70% is it just mega reduces the enemy's defense and resistance for 8 seconds. So what you're basically hoping to do with that is open an 8-second window after casting this that everyone uses their strongest abilities in. Just fights aren't that orderly, and I don't think that forcing people into that 8-second window is a good way to go about constructing a team. A lot of the best damage output in this game is not limited to a small window, because that would mean you're hoping for OSBs. And if you're reducing the enemy's defense and resistance by 70%, that means your OSBs are probably going to start capping. They already have that issue anyway. So you lose damage by capping. I know, like, straight 9s looks impressive, but you can usually accrue more actual output over time than you can with an OSB's single cast. And that's why they've really fallen off the bandwagon as being effective soul breaks now. And it just further throws this USB into question. Wall has always been kind of the redheaded stepchild. Yeah, and that doesn't stop. He's pretty bad. I'm gonna rate him as I'm gonna rate him as D. He's not even Combat 4 enabled. He really, like, he suffers a lot of things that make him below average. Next we have Master, who is also from Final Fantasy 1. Completely non-elemental, and Monk 6. That's a pretty basic ability pool. However, he does have a good BSB, and it turns out he gets Legend Materia as well, to further throw shade at Wall. And we have Complementary C. So let's go take a look at his A-rank burst. And keep in mind that non-elemental, while unboostable, is still a fairly valuable thing to have sometimes. You want to have high damage non-elemental things because they can bail you out if in case like you have a bad elemental coverage and you've run into an omni-resist boss that only has like 50% resist for one thing that you don't have. Good non-elemental characters, and this is the first one that shows up, are actually good. And eventually there is a Magicite dungeon dedicated to non-elemental damage users, so they don't get forgotten. So we have a BSB that grants a lot of stuff on cast. This is one of the ones that has added effects. 10 single attacks, so it does a 7.8 total. That's cool. Grants haste. Normally, haste, either critical or last stand and burst mode would be what you would see, but this is one of those added effect things. It gets 2. Last stand and critical 50%. Definitely a very good opener. And for Master's Commands, we have Storm and Strife. Regular cast time, 4 single attacks, 8 attacks if user has Unbound Fury. Cool. Second command would be Bitter Blow. Has a higher multiplier, 4 single attacks at 6.6 each, and grants Unbound Fury to the user for 25 seconds. Unbound Fury is a status that reduces your defense and resistance by 40%. Ouch. But halves your cast time. And that increases your damage output as is, but it also augments the first command and turns what is a 1.6 multiplier non-elemental into a 3.2 multiplier non-elemental. So he can output some serious damage with that first command, even though he's not elemental. The only problem in all this is he loses 40% of his defense and resistance. However, if you remember on the entry, he does get Last Stand to help him mitigate that, because he's probably gonna die at least one time, pseudo die at least one time during a fight. This is a good burst. Unfortunately, while they did give him Legend Materia, they didn't do a whole lot for his Soul Break pool. He only has that and the Moment of Clarity Super Soul Break. 8 single attacks, attack and defense 35% to the user, and grants instant cast 2 to the user. Yeah, definitely would have been a whole lot better if at least one of those was to group. But he's a selfish guy. This is not really worth using. I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, because if you're using his burst, you want his first command. His first command's probably higher DPS than, I don't know. This is it's a poor complementary piece. What did I have it rated as? B? I have no idea why. Oh, C. That's better. I'd probably place it as D, though. So, a little error there. Let's go take a look at his Legend Materia. 35% chance to dual cast monk abilities. Monk abilities do 15% more damage, and 25% chance to grant attack 35% until damage to the user after using a monk ability. Well, we don't like the LMR, the last one. However, monk abilities deal 15% more damage, and 35% chance to dual cast monk abilities are great Legend Materia. And just to verify, Master's commands are both monk, which is good. That would ruin everything if they weren't. So, yeah, he's a really high output damage dealer. Can I place him in A, even though this is all that's available to him? No. Because he just doesn't have much. And he's there is that drawback of the fact that it hurts him to use that. I'm going to put him in B for now. He doesn't have a whole lot going for him he is very focused on the 35% double cast plus that 8-hit command. But consider that it's really good. He's really high damage output. He's just... I need to compare him against others in A and B, so I'm throwing him in B. B is my take a look and see if they can bust into A group. And we're going to be relying on the B tier at the start of the tier list until we get a clearer picture of where everyone goes. Next we have Furion, who is main character, Final Fantasy II. Holy damage. We'll take a look at his USB. I forget if that's holy damage or not. But I know his burst has a lot of holy damage going for it. Support 4. That's pretty cool. Like that. Samurai 6. That is pretty cool because Hailstorm is a thing now. Hooray for global. Yes. And Shooter 5. We got BSB rated as A, Legend Materia D. That's unfortunate. Look at this top of this list where you either don't have Legend Materia or you got A rank, but then there's Furion nestled in there in the litter box. Complimentary A, which is gonna happen often. A lot of main characters get a lot of soul breaks, so complimentary A is gonna be common for them. Furion, yep, we got a big list of stuff there. His burst soul break is rated at A, and there's a good reason for that. It's instacast. Anytime you see instacast, this is cast time, plus magic blink, right here. Excellent. That's a really, really powerful combination. Just being able to life siphon out instant magic blinks to defeat mechanics is a really powerful defense for your party. And Furion's burst commands are okay. They're okay. He has a first command, it's an iteration command. So if you use the ability once, it does one attack twice 2 attacks, and so on until you get 8 attacks. So really awesome for Torment. Not terribly practical elsewhere. But awesome for Torment, because you can get that up to 8 attacks before the boss fight even starts pretty easily. Chain Launch, the second command, is probably the one that you're going to be using more often. 4 single attacks, 0.42 each, and grants cast speed multiplied by 999 to the user for 1 turn, basically giving you instacast for the next turn. Definitely is more high damage command, and they are both holy and non-elemental commands, so that's nice. It's not really great for damage output, that's why I didn't rank it as S. But the utility is one of the higher burst soul breaks that we're going to be looking at. Nope, Oak, we are at the beginning. So you're pretty safe. What else do you got going for you, Furion? Because while it's a good burst soul break, it's just enough for A or B at least. We have Rose of Rebellion, his OSB, breaks damage cap, and it's a more iteration. It does more higher multiplier if you've dealt a lot of attacks. I don't really like this qualifier. Especially if you've done 9 attacks. I guess it's not that difficult to hit 9 attacks, especially with an OSB where you want to use it at the end of the fight. So dealing 9 attacks, it's not like turns or abilities used, it's attacks. So if you use his fully charged iteration mechanic, then that is 8 attacks. Or his burst, his second burst command, each one is 4 attacks, and it's instacast, so you can ramp those up pretty quickly. So I think it's plausible for this burst to be a holy burst, or holy OSB, yeah, holy non-elemental, that most of the time is going to be a 12.5 multiplier, which is higher than normal, and with the option of hitting 13.75. So that's nice. Yeah, as far as OSBs go. Shining Blade, Super Soul Break, grants attach holy to the user. Useful, very useful. Yeah, really useful with his burst. And USB. What is this? How does this change the character? That's going to be a theme that we see in a lot of the damage dealing characters on the list. Is their USB changes the character and kind of funnels them into a play style, and some are exceptionally good, and some aren't. So we have grants X mode, Loyal Retainer, and Attach Holy. Okay, so you just completely wiped out the usefulness of this Super Soul Break. The USB is worth taking a look at. Thank you for the follow, Ignite. Status, Search Retainer. 15-second duration. Grants attack 30%, cast speed times 1.5 plus 0.5 for each attack used for the duration of the status. Up to 6. Is this any good? I'm leaning towards no. We have his... so what could he theoretically use with this? He's got his 2 burst commands, plus his... Ability pool, where is he? Support 4. Okay. No. Samurai 6, no, you cap out at 2 hits for everything, and Shooter 5, not really, you cap out at 2 hits for everything. So the best stuff to use this with would be his burst commands. You're meant to use his USB with his burst commands. How well would this realistically increase your damage output? Obviously, it looks like it's meant to be used with his first command, the iterative command, to make it viable in some place other than Torment. However, its cast speed times 1.5 plus 0.5 for each attack used for the duration of the status. So how you'd need to do this would be to cast his Burst Soul Break, then work up his Iterative Command, which is a bad thing since you start out doing garbage heap damage, and then use his USB and his BSB together. So this is 3 Soul Break bars that we're needing to put together. So you can get this this X mode status, Loyal Retainer, plus his Burst mode active. So you could continue using that Iterative Command and pump up this further. So if you had a fully charged Command 1, then add this, you could easily, because each command is 8 attacks, that you'd easily get up to the times 6 cast speed. Not good. This isn't good. This is like crazy, like niche situation. This is not something that you can use all the time, or even 20% of the time. I don't like this at all. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, RW Toys, that I think that makes a lot of sense, Hugh. However, his burst his burst is good by itself. So how did I have him rated? Complimentary A? I think that's high. I think that's generous. I think I when I originally looked at it, I didn't really think into how good that that X mode was. And I came out in a bad place. If he was a celerity-enabled character and could use Dervish, now we're talking. That's a different story. But he's not. Legend Materia D. Weapon proficiency, physical attacks deal 10% more damage. Sure, fine. Master of Arms, attack plus 1% for each hit dealt with physical attacks up to 50%. Well, up to 50% is not bad. And he does output a high number of attacks. So that's not terrible. That's I think plus 50%, even above soft cap, is about a plus 22.5 damage increase. So he really is just a raw damage output. But nothing really that, I don't know. I have it rated at C. I think C's correct. I added a D. I think C's good. I think I originally thought it was one of those plus 35% attackers. But plus 50% is better, especially with the high volume of attacks that Furion can let loose. These kinds of things do stack with Shout, yes. It's just like... record materia. They count as stat buffs that are in place innately at before the fight starts. They're not actual effects inside the fight, and effects inside the fight, which would be the ones that would have stacking issues. But record and legend materia have no such issues. Despite having practically nothing to his name, other than his burst soul break, and I guess, I mean, at least you get attach holy, and you are getting a slight damage increase from the X. I suppose we'll put him in A. It's just that his burst soul break, it really is that good. The instacast magic blink with strong commands is obscenely powerful, and at least qualifies him for A. Hey. We'll leave Joseph alone. He actually gets good with his burst soul break. We have Guy next. Speaking of someone who gets good with their burst soul break, Guy has a good burst. He's Earth, he's Monk 6, and he's little known that he is also Knight 4. which is very useful, as everyone knows. We have Knight or BSB ranked as A. Unfortunately, no Legend Materia. Because we wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want Guy to be an actual good character, right? Complimentary E. Uh-oh. So not much to look at here. So I can concentrate on his cool burst. Not cool. It is boring, but it's just effective and good. 6 group attacks. Causes Imperil Earth 20% for 25 seconds. And grants haste and burst mode to the user. Sure, this is like, the Augury's Beatrix thing. They do their group Imperil Earth, and hopefully they can take advantage of that Imperil and recast it many times. No one's as good as them at doing what they do, but... we have 4 single attacks. A multiplier increases with user's attack. Pretty cool. That's fine. We like scaling things. Things that over time become easier to enable. So let's take a look at the damage threshold. He gets a 0.65 multiplier times 4, so that's a 2.6 multiplier at 977 attack, which is actually easy to hit. So I'm going to assume, or just run under the assumption that his first command is a 2.6 multiplier, which is good. Get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. There. Second command, 2 group attacks. That's something Auguries and Beatrice don't have. Grants Dark Bard in the user. Speaking of ways to make his attack really easily hit 977. Yeah, this is great. It's fine. I like this burst. It's a really good Imperil Earth burst. Good job, Guy. What else you got? Gaia Drum. 4 group attack. This is why I had his complimentary at E. Costs his Imperil Earth for 20 seconds. It's like they just completely forgot, or wanted to ignore the fact that this Super Silver Giver existed. Because you're not going to use Guy for this. So you're using Guy, you have this. And if you have this, this is worthless. So he's got this going for him, and that is it. However, it is an exceptional Imperil Earth burst. So we're going to throw Guy in B. B. No, he's really just doesn't have anything else going for him. Should we see him? Should I consider him average? It is a rare element. And I think that's worth something. Does an above average burst move you out of average? What else you got going for you? What's your ability pool? You have Knight 4. That's kind of cool, man. God, if only you had Knight 5 and could use Gaia Cross. Yeah, that's a good point by you, Jeffner. The FF2 Torment would be at the mercy of Guy with this burst. Yeah, Guy, Gladio, and Ingus would be an awesome team. Really, really good. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm gonna put him in B for now. B is going to be huge, and it's definitely going to be moved around quite a bit once we get to the end, because there's going to be some people dropping a C and some people growing to A. I don't know if there's any other good Imperil bursts. Let's go take a look. I mean, this does have stuff to do with his value, doesn't it? Yeah, there's 7, like Shadow says. 2 belong to Guy. Emperor gets his USB. We took a look at that on the Mage one, which is good. It's just weird. Yang gets a Super Soul Break and Pearl Earth, which is not good. Dorgan gets his Imperil Earth, which runs into the problem of not doing any damage. Instead of doing damage, it does the attack defense 30%. We'll get to Dorgan. But I don't really... I'm half and half on this burst. Sid from Final Fantasy 14. He's not released yet. Causes Imperil Earth. This is his burst. Group attacks. Okay, so that's probably pretty good. And Miliadul gets a Super Soul Break. I don't really care for the Super Soul Break Imperils. Like the bursts, though. So, it's possible that Sid's Final Fantasy 14 burst can match guys. Oh no. First command is a single attack 2.06. What? Second is 4 single ranged, 0, 10%, 30%, 100% chance to cause Imperil Earth, 10% scaling, shot and reload, uses reset. I mean, that obviously sounds pretty powerful. But it's single target only. I don't know, it kind of stands to the side of Guy's, because Guy has, you know, Dark Bargain and a scaling attack. But that Imperil Earth 10% is pretty good. Because you're going to want to use it with an Earth team, right? Anyway, why am I spending so much time on this? Let's move on. Guy's in B. I think I'm going to drop him to C. I don't think having an above average burst, it's not so good that it makes him more than an average character. Leon, Dark, Night 6, Darkness 5. BSBD, Legend Materia A, Complementary A. Where have we seen this before? It's like the return of Garland, except Leon is a full knight. Let's take a look. Leon. Attach Dark Burst. Single Drain command. 2 single attacks that grants Hailstorm to the user for 20 seconds. Yeah, that's basically Garland's. In other words, it's bad. And we have Leon with Lord of Dark... Oh, yeah, I remember Leon now. Yeah, you don't use Leon for his burst. You use Leon for his USB. 8 single range attacks, grants HP stock 6,000 to himself. Darkness 30% boost, and attach dark to the user. Yeah, I mean, it's you put Life Siphon on him, and then you start using darkness abilities once you've got his burst going. Or his, quote, burst, his USB. Darkness 30% boost is interesting, and it would work really well with the 4-hit darkness ability, the one that I suggested would be good to use on Garland. So you can do a lot of damage with this, especially because, you know, you're going to get, if you get multiple casts, because you got to attach dark, darkness 30%, oh, not that's darkness 30%. Oh, that changes everything. It's darkness school. It would be called Dark 30% boost if it was the element. But since it says Darkness 30%, that means if you recast this, it does not get 30% damage boost. Which probably makes a lot of sense. Because the attached Dark is plus 80% damage, and then plus 30% more would be nuts. So you're not meant to chain this. You're meant to use it, use darkness abilities during its duration, and then refresh it at the end. So not as useful, but still good because there is a good physical darkness ability. Leon, since he doesn't have a good burst, and you're heavily reliant on abilities, in being heavily reliant on those abilities, Life Siphon and a Darkness ability, you can't use Leon as a knight. He's really not even a knight. He's just a Darkness. He's a Darkness physical. So I think I'm going to put him in C. Whoa. Alright, Layla. Poison, Celerity 6, Thief 6. BSBA, yeah, we know why. Or we'll find out in a second. And Complementary B. That stinks that she doesn't get Legend Materia. Layla is like the best character in Final Fantasy 2. Hmm. Oh, well, you know, there's Maria too, but I mean physical. Where you at, Layla? There you are. We got Captain's Command, Shell Haste. Well, that's an oldie. But good submission, Relic. Pirate's Knives. This is a good Super Soul Break. Attack and resistance minus 50%. And attack and resistance plus 30% to the user. So it's her version of Master Thief, except it's water damage, which is interesting. Okay, sure. Poison Cloud. Her burst, this is what makes her good. 8 group attacks, grants haste, attach poison, and burst mode to the user. Good, but the strength is in the commands. We have 4 single attacks at 4.7 each. Not a high multiplier, but it is its damage is greatly augmented by the fact that it's even faster than Ninja Cast Time. Ninja Cast Time is 0.87, which is effectively 50% of the normal 1.65 cast time. 0.6 reduces that even further, which I guess 0.17 is not exactly the biggest thing to shave off, but it's something to consider because it's a considerable damage increase since it doesn't really have anything special going for it on the command itself. And the second command is a interesting stacking buff and debuff. 2 single attacks, attack in mind minus 20% for 20 seconds, and attack in mind plus 20% for 20 seconds. At first glance, this thing it feels weird because mind debuffs. While we have a good one going on right now, mind debuffs in the Unalaska fight for a multiplayer right now is very, very nice. This is a really weird debuff, and it doesn't feel all that effective because mine feels wasted. The reason why this is good is because it's so rare. I think it's just straight up unique. So it will stack with everything, including what she has available to her in her ability pool, and that is Mug Bloodlust. So she has a lot of attack and debuff stacking available to her, which is interesting when you consider that she has a high damage command 1 and she's poison enabled. This is a very, very, very potent burst. I believe it is one of a kind. I don't even think a search function is going to allow me to look at that, I guess. We have attack in mind. In commands, it is unique. 1 occurrence. Amo is a buff. It's an attack in mind buff, so that doesn't even apply, really, because we're looking at debuff and buff. And we're not even going to get Amo, most likely, because he's from Final Fantasy Legends 2, which is a Japanese-only game. So I don't even know what this guy is. So yeah, it's pretty unique. Pretty damn unique. Yeah, and unique in the good way. Really love this burst. What else she got going for her? Is it she doesn't have Legend Materia, and that, oh man, that's my big lament. Because Layla's burst is so good. Just give her a little something to go with it. That Soul Break is nice, but not enough. I like how we're starting slow. We haven't got to any of the super characters yet. Pirate's Knives is a very good Super Soul Break. Yeah, she's B. I mean, that burst puts her in B. She very easily, with, one other strong piece, like some, halfway decent Legend Materia, could push her up to A. And that is the power of her BSB. Especially when you consider how rare poison is as an element. But I'm not going to put that much weight on elements because I've highlighted their elements, as you can see on the list. So when we get the final list put together, you'll be able to go through it yourself and say, okay, this is what Dirge thinks is the highest rated poison character. Even if they may be, A or B, they're still, pseudo S because they're the best at dealing that kind of element. And that's an important thing to keep in mind for the eventual Magicite dungeons. So it's very important that you keep their element in mind. And then I'm not going to put an over much amount of weight on the elemental rarities as far as putting them in the actual groups because of it. Okay, moving on. Ricard. Ricard. Wow. So the trash can of Record Keeper, who is really just super neglected for a very long time, finally in the latest event in in Record Keeper in Japan, got a burst. Hooray for Ricard, right? Unfortunately, it stinks. I got it rated as D, and his complimentary is E, because we all know his grand array of soul breaks. So he has got a super soul break. It does 7 random range jump attacks, and it does less damage if you don't have at least 3 Dragoon users in the party. Does less it punishes you for not using a party of Dragoons. He's a gimmick character. He is a huge just gimmick. Grants attachment to the user. I mean, that's just special. So that's just an utterly worthless super soul break. I mean, if you like Dragoons and the whole gimmick that he's about, he may be worth using, and you'd have a lot of fun with it. But he's purely a gimmick and fun character. Let's see his burst soul break. 8 single random jump attacks. Why is it no, never mind, it's not random. The super soul break's random, sorry. So it's just single target, grants haste, attachment, and burst mode to the user. Commands. Two single range grants no airtime to the user. That's okay. Sure. Second command, 4 single attacks, grants Dragoon plus 9% boost 3 to the user. That's fine. The problem with this burst, and I may have rated it too poorly, it's more like a C tier burst. The problem with it, it's wind based. He has no ether ability. And there is no 5-star Dragoon Wind. There is only Sky High, which is a tough hone. So that's it's really the only thing available to him. Where a Dragoon like Kane can thrive because you can dedicate a 5-star hone to him and make him highly effective. Ricard has no such thing going for him because he's a Wind Dragoon, and I don't know, they're not doing Wind Dragoons any favors. So yeah, I mean, Ricard's terrible. It's just D. But please, he'd be another character where if I saw someone using him in a party of Dragoons, they would be my hero. Joseph. He is an ice monk. Wow. Likes to know, huh? It's an exclusive group. Support 4. Sure, you can break down. Monk 6. Lifebane. Nice. Joseph, you're looking at S right now. BSB A. No Legend Materia. Comp C. Oh, we have Goliath Lifestyle. I mean, is that not the best name for a burst? Goliath Lifestyle? Wow. Who doesn't want this? Attack and magic 30% for 25 seconds. Grants haste. Attach ice and burst mode to the user. Why do I have this ranked as A? this is a really big issue with this burst right now. It doesn't have a damage component. One of the best parts about attach elemental bursts is that when you recast it, you get plus 80% damage on the recast. So because the N element status gives you plus 80% damage when doing that element in Soul Break form, or plus 50% damage when doing that element elsewhere. So the great part about recasting an attach ice, or an attach element burst, is that damage. He doesn't get that. It's not a Heiska or anything, it's just attack and magic 30%. So this is like the Celeste BSB1, which was fine back in the day when that was a rare buff and was a really cool thing to have in your party. But this isn't even released for another few months. This is old news. Let's take a look at the commands. Joseph, Icy Vice, 3 single attacks, 6 attacks. Oh, it's an Unbound Fury, which is nice and all. But again, that no damage on recast it just means his burst is confused out of its mind. And of course it has Unbound Fury on it, because that reduces its defense and resistance by 40%. Doesn't give him Last Stand. This burst is a death wish for Joseph. Yang gets a similar burst, but at least Yang gets the damage increase on recast, which makes it a perfectly fine burst. This is not. It's moving in 2 separate directions. Joseph has No Crush, 6 group attack, grants haste to all allies. Simple Heiska is more of a CM tool these days, not really that powerful elsewhere. Snows of Death restores HP to all allies for 40% of the maximum HP. Alright, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. Low tier Buska, and you don't have Legend Materia access. Yeah. How did I rate this as an A? Man, you know, sometimes when I'm making up these primer, so I have some, like, a reference chart to look at, I slip up, and this is a big slip up. I would rate this BSB as C. Complimentary C and no Legend Materia means that Joseph is a D tier. C is a below average character. Thanks, Joseph. You had such a bright future. I mean, you're an ice monk, and, like, who doesn't like those? You have so many ways to take advantage of that element. Anyway, Scott. Fire. Spellblade 6. So you're a Spellblade. Interesting. Final Fantasy 2 needed that. White Magic 4. Always love that. Knight 4. Useful as well. Wow. You sound useful. Don't Let Me Down. BSB B. Complimentary C. Violent Flames. Attached Fire. Look at that. 8 single attacks that take advantage of attached fire. Joseph. Make some mental notes. And look, he's even copying you here. 6 single attacks restores HP to all allies at 40% of their maximum HP. It's like, just, they took you and made you good. What are your commands? 3 single attacks grants Spellblade 50% boost 3 to the user. Well, that's nice. Very nice. We got group attacks like that. These Spellblade commands, they are. Wow. It's a pretty good burst. Does group, does single. Gives him boost 3, so he could chain, like, command 1, command 2, and a Spellblade in your ability pool. Though, I'm guessing you'd probably be using this exclusively, because you're not using him on anything else, or anything other than something that exploits a fire vulnerability. I think that may be his drawback here, is He's fire exclusive. So you're only using him when exploiting vulnerability. And 3 single attacks. 3 isn't really that much better than using the 5-star Fire Spellblade. So this is good. It is a good burst. It just, that 3 single attacks bothers me. Why is he only getting 3 when there's other Spellblades that, at the very least, get 4 attacks in their element? So Scott is a Fire Spellblade. So please just allow him to do good fire damage. At least give him that. And while they didn't go as far as I would like. Scott will be C tier. That's all he's got, you know. He's got a good ability pool, good stuff. But yeah, sorry, dude. You could have been good. I mean, your name's Scott. All right, we finally get to one of our S tier capable characters. We'll see if he actually lands. We have Lunith. It's a lot of soul breaks. Well, let's take a look at what the reference chart says. Wow, support 4. Spellblade 5, that means he dives from Spellblade 4 to Spellblade 5. Relevant, because he doesn't get access to Snow Spell Strike. That's at least 2 elements. Because Spellblade gets a AoE Ice Spellblade, and an AoE Wind Spellblade. So they do like 2.4 multiplier instead of the normal 3.2 that like the Fire and the Lightning Spellblades get. So he doesn't do as much Ice and Wind damage. That's basically it. Because those would be the ones covered by Snow Spell Strike, the 6-star Spellblade ability. Regrettable, but it's not a huge mark against them. We got Dragoon 6. Well, theirs is wind damage, right? So that has a lot, comes into play a lot less since he has access to Sky High instead. Darkness 5. Lunith, what do you got hiding in your closet? So BSB A, Legend Materia A, and Complementary A. I love looking at characters like this. So we got Sword Shower. It's single. Defense 50%. You're probably never going to use that. It was good back in the day. I really liked that Soul Break. But, yeah, power creep's a thing. 8 single ranged. Causes stun 100%. Grants haste, attachment, and burst mode to the user. I don't really consider the stun 100% a benefit. But it is a tack-on benefit. We still have the haste, attachment, and burst mode. The stun 100% is just purely a bonus. So I'm not going to mark it against... There's nothing to mark against the burst here. It doesn't draw away from its power at all. Commands, we have 4 single, ranged. Cool. Is the burst itself ranged? Yes. So he, like Dragoons, has a lot of ranged options available to him, so you can back row him. 4 single ranged, causes stun. That's fine. 2 group ranged, and grants Hailstorm to the user for 20 seconds. This is good, because... it's not that good. It's good because it's ranged. And it grants Hailstorm, which means it can stack with his ability to use Darkness 5. So he can Dark Bargain and Hailstorm. They're the positive and the negative brothers, with Hailstorm reducing resistance by 30% and Dark Bargain reducing defense by 30%. Whereas they both increase attack by 30%. So Lunith becomes a self-buffer with both of those available to him. So this is a pretty good burst. I don't know how I had it ranked A. I wouldn't call it A. It's more like B. Yeah, B is a good rank for it. Moving on, we have Heavenly Gusts as OSB. This is recent in the Final Fantasy III event. And damage increases with wind attacks used. I like it. He obviously, everything that he does, besides maybe Dark Bargain, but if I had his OSB, I probably would shy away from Dark Bargain and try using something else. Just try to use a bunch of wind attacks, and bam, you got yourself a strong OSB to go along. And his OSB little footnote is a plus wind all realm 6-star spear. Very good relic. USB. And this is, again, like Furion, how does this change your character? Attach wind, X Gale, and high quick cast 1 to the user. High quick cast reduces your cast time by a factor of 3, where quick cast is a factor of 2. So it would have it, this thirds your cast time on the next attack. Attach wind is weird, because that doesn't line up well with his BSB. And often what we're going to see here is that the USBs turn into something called, we call it a chase USB. And I think that's what X-Scale is. And you want to use them with their BSB. So don't like the fact that it's attached wind. Let's take a look at this X-Gale. Whoa! It's too powerful. S tier. Crashed the Chrome window. There we go. So, yeah. It's one of those. It gives him attack 30%. Like, if he didn't have enough buffs for himself already, and grants high quick cast 1 after using a wind attack. So this is definitely meant to be used with his burst, because as a Spellblade and a Dragoon, he has a deceptively small amount of good wind attacks to use. Because the 5-star Spellblade for wind is not that good other than AoE situations, and Sky High is something that's hard to hone well. And when you're high quick casting stuff out, you want good hones. So this is meant to be used with his burst, which makes me, I don't know, a little confused. Because they both have attached wind on them. I'd like something more that allowed them to build off of each other. At least it makes sure that your attached wind status will never fade. So each time you cast his USB, you're probably going to be alternating. You cast OSB and USB. They will both get benefit from the plus 80% damage from the end wind status. At least there's that, right? So he gets one of these quick cast mechanics. So, as it stands right now, he is easily the best character that we've reviewed yet. And I would want to put him in S, but I'm going to put him in A. And I just want you to understand that that just means that there's good things to come. I have looked over this list a few times because I've had a few days to do this. And Lunith is actually just, I feel like he's high A. And, yeah, just think about how much better we can get from a damage output perspective if this guy is A. And he does put out a ton of damage. And I think he's one of the better characters in the entire game, especially with his skill set. He is a potential candidate for S. We'll have to see what S looks like when we get to the end. But you know what this does is it probably moves Furion out of A. So that's something to think about, because he's obviously much better than Furion. Furion's utility with the Magic Blink can't live up to the damage output that Lunith can bring. Shadow, as I understand it, that works for the ability schools that occur in nightmares. Like if you have, say, you're Alpha Note, for instance, you have White Magic 4, and you can dive to White Magic 5. That White Magic 5, if you've defeated the White Magic Nightmare, immediately turns to White Magic 6. However, Spellblade is not a nightmare-oriented 6-star. The moat-oriented 6 stars that we get from the Torments are not something that turn into 6. And that's the difference between the two. And that's how I understand it. Someone can feel free to correct me. Okay, so next on the list, after Lunith, we have Raffia, who I was crying out in pain until the latest event in Japan. I finally got a Final Fantasy III event. I was like, come on, give her something more than just her burst. I mean, her burst is phenomenal, but give her something more. And they finally did, and we're going to see that in a second. We get Fire, Monk 6. Much better, by the way. If anyone didn't catch on to my snark on Joseph, is that ice is just it's a dead element for monks. There's no synergy between Monk 6 and ice. Raffia, on the other hand, not only gets synergy between her and Monk, she gets synergy between her and Shooter 5. Because Shooter 5 gets greatly expanded in the future. Gets a lot of buffs, a lot of people get access to it, and Shooter 5 gets a 5-star fire ability. So she's got both fires within and for a higher damage but no self-heal component, she's got the Shooter 5 going for her. Ninja 4, not terribly useful. I'm probably not going to unlock it on her. Unless, I absolutely need to. She doesn't have a good magic. And there's nothing that great that Ninja 4 has going for it. If she had Ninja 5, then we would be singing a completely different song. BSB A, Legend Materia A, Complementary A. Like Lunith, I love reviewing characters like this. They just have so many cool things to look at. Oh, Lunith, Legend Materia. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to go back to Lunith's Legend Materia. Increases wind damage dealt by 10% and grants haste and instant cast 3 at the beginning of the battle. That's awesome. That's awesome. I have it rated as A instead of S because you want a dual cast to go along with your haste and instant cast. The haste is only slightly useful because you're most likely going to be using haste to start a fight. Though I guess it does add some flexibility to teams. Like if you have enough people that you can self-haste at the beginning of the fight, then all of a sudden you can start working with teams that don't have a native haste and blowing a Mako Might on using them at the beginning of the fight. And that's something to think about. Instant Cast 3 is a very nice thing to get these chains flowing, because Lunith is very, very dependent on that combo, remember, between his USB and BSB. So 3 Instant Cast Life Siphons at the start of the fight is a really great way to get him there. However, no double cast. And that's probably what's going to keep him in A tier, because a lot of the other characters that have similar USBs as Lunith have access to that double cast. And with Japan just now, 6 months from now, getting another Final Fantasy III event means it's going to be a while before we get the opportunity for Lunith to get an LMR that opens up a double cast capability. And while we're here, might as well take a look at it. We see Raffia increases fire damage dealt by 10%. Grants attack 50% for next damaging action after dealing a critical hit. This was actually different the last time I checked. It was grants 50% until she takes a hit, which is much worse because it has the potential to be nothing. Because if you get a crit and then you take any damage in between that action and the next, you get no benefit. However, this ensures that her next action after getting a critical hit gets attack plus 50%. If you are below soft cap, this is an incredible boon. If you were above soft cap, it is still plus 22.5% damage. That is still good. Like I said before, I think it was on Warrior of Light. There's a big difference between that plus 35% and the plus 50%. Plus the 50% is a nice damage increase. So I would probably take that, and as we see, Raffia gets access to an LMR that gives her 25% chance to dual cast fire abilities, not monk. So she's not limited by monk, and she has the expansive capability of dual casting fire. This is an awesome couple of legend materia, and if I made my summary chart thing again, I'd probably place I would think about it, because there's even better legend materias than this attack 50% out there. So let's shelve that. It's A at least, S at most. Legend materia. So Raffia, we love what you got so far. Show us what you got. Okay, we got this Dance of Carnage BSB, and this plays into her that second legend materia where she gets plus 50% attack after crit. This Dance of Carnage basically means, and everything like centers around this Dance of Carnage. She's an A tier character with this, and she A, B with this, and maybe AS with everything else. The Dance of Carnage status that comes along with this. Remember, we have haste, attach fire, burst mode. That's the typical. Dance of Carnage is an added benefit, and that's why Raffia is, since the debut of this burst, has been so sought after as a fire character, because she has one of the higher value, just a higher allowance of power on its opener in the game. Dance of Carnage is it's weird that they hide this behind a name, because it doesn't matter that it is, but it's a 50% crit fix. Obviously meant to work with that, or that legend materia is obviously meant to work with this. You're often going to get at least one crit with all the things that you do, so you're often going to be just having that free 50% attack buff at all times with her. So that's a really, really cool legend materia. Let's take a look at the burst commands. And this is where it gets even better. So she has a higher allowance of power on the opener. And then she has a Dark Bargain command to further increase her attack output. Not necessary, but group. And that's the important part here, is it gives her a group option. She's an excellent single target character, but she has a group option, and that's a great thing to have. 4 single target attacks and critical hits deal 100% more damage instead of 50%. This is important for 2 reasons. Plus, it increases the damage output of this command, and it works with that legend materia to make sure that, since it's 4 attacks and you're likely going to crit one of them, that makes sure that you're going to have that plus 50% going almost at all times. The critical hits deal 100% more damage instead of 50. It means that whenever she gets a crit, she deals double damage instead of 150% damage. So this is one of those burst commands that's likely doing 40k per turn. So it's limited. I know I say limited loosely by the fact that it's only doing 40,000 a turn. However, she does get a double cast materia, and that's what you want to see here. You want to look for ways in their legend materia to extend the damage potential, because that's the problem with the first legend materia I talked about, the plus attack. Giving her more attack and more multiplier and stuff like that wouldn't increase the damage potential, because you're likely hitting 40k anyway. So what's another 10k on top of that you can't reach because you're limited? So the double cast materia is what really pulls that together. And so we have an A/S tier burst already here. And we haven't even gotten to her USB yet. And here's I waited going into the second part of our first command, because it really, this augments her first command even further. Which is weird, because it further makes sure that you're doing 40k with your command, which is depressing. But I don't know. I'll just go into the USB. You'll see. It grants attached fire, so it's similar to Lunith's, where you have attached fire on both the burst and the USB. Not ideal. We wish that could be allotted to something else, but still good. I guess, you know, I shouldn't be too harsh on these, because what it means is it makes the character more fun, so you don't have to... Once you get these going, you don't have to loop in more life siphons. Since you're not as worried about, overlap, since you have the attached fires on both. Anyway, Flaming Love status, critical damage plus 50%, which stacks with their first command. So you get, instead of double damage with criticals, you get plus 150% damage on criticals. So say you did a critical hit for, 2,000 damage. We'll just use a low number because the numbers get big. Critical plus 50% means that a 2,000 will do 5,000 instead. That's a plus 150% increase. So twice as much would be 4,000. Add half of that on top of it again, which would be another 1,000. So 2,000 becomes 5,000. You can see how this gets crazy a little quick. And now, you start seeing what Raffia's burst and USB are really meant to be used with, because now we're just getting to absurd levels of just annihilating the cap on her first command. It's meant to be used with Cloud's USB, the thing that allows you to exceed a damage cap on any ability. Raffia with Cloud's USB, her BSB, and her USB becomes a goddess of fire. And we haven't even gotten to the Flaming Love status and quick cast 1 to the user. So let's go and do that and just completely fall in love with this. I'm not Raffia. Flaming Love. Grants quick cast 1 after using a fire attack. So grants quick cast 1 to the user, and if you just keep on using fire attacks after that, this is the point. Like I was talking about with Life Siphon and the 2 attached fires. You're not supposed to use Life Siphon anymore once you have this combo going. You're just supposed to keep on chaining fire ability after fire ability after fire ability after fire ability, using Flaming Love to keep that quick cast chain going, and get your critical 50% on top of your first command. You're going to be exceeding just absurd amounts of damage every single turn with all this put together. Yep, Goddess of Fire, Raffia. So this is why we have Lunith rated as A, because Lunith is a great character, and that X Gale thing is cool, and the high quick cast thing is cool, but his damage output cannot contend with Raffia's. It's lucky for Lunith that he does win damage, because he wouldn't want to have to compete with this woman. We are, for now, going to be putting Raffia in S. That may change, and there's a reason for that, is because Cloud's USB is what enables this to be so good. Otherwise, adding her USB to this mix doesn't increase the damage, her damage output as much as it should. It's severely hampered by the 40k maximum on her command 1. So you're just using it for the fire chain. A chain's probably a bad word since we already used that. Is this what would be considered a chase? Anyway, whatever. You get the quick cast thing going. But there's other characters who will contend with her for S tier that don't have that limitation, and you'll see. it's okay if you're biased on Raffia in S tier, because she, even with that limitation, she still spits flames. It is very impressive. She's very impressive. And I'm happy. Because her burst has been so good and so fun for so long that she needed it to just an update, make her cool. So I spent a lot of time on Raffia just explaining her mechanics. Let's try not to do that again. But I won't need to spend as much time because Lunith and Raffia kind of set the stage for those the chaining quick cast mechanic. So everyone's kind of got that in their mind as what that is now. Dark Cecil. Okay, finally we get an easy one. BSBC, Legend Materia B, Complementary C. Dark Knight Cecil, we got Burst, Dark Flame, 8 group attacks, damages the user for 25% of their maximum HP, okay. Attack and resistance to the user, okay. And grants haste and burst mode. Oh, this sucks so far. How did I rate this C? So he damaged himself and gives him only himself a buff. Okay, okay, that's great. You're a real piece of work. Oh god, this first command, 4 single attacks. Attack increases as HP decreases. Well, that stinks, because not only is attack not the thing that you want to be boosting, it keeps its damage limited to 4. So yeah, and 2 group attacks that damage the user for 12.5 maximum match HP. What the? This is a D at best tier burst. This is terrible. Ugh. God. Shadowbringer. Damages the user for 30% of his max HP. I mean, it's got a high multiplier. Super Soul Breaks don't have a 9.18, but it's not worth it. 30% of max HP for 1.1, practically 1.5 multiplier. Come on. And he has an OSB. Oh my god. Oh my god. Multiplier increases if the user's HP is below 80, 50, 20, and 6%. And I know I went over this mechanic on another OSB. This stinks because you need to count on him having low HP for like the entire cast. Because say you're at high HP. So what do you do? Do you cast it and assume you're going to get an 11.5 multiplier out of it, and then hope that maybe something deals a lot of damage and gives you a higher multiplier? I don't know. This is just an awful, 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 awful character. You can deal damage, so technically you are a physical character that can do physical things, so I can't E tier you, but you're in D tier max. Moving on, we have, P Cecil. Yay. Holy, White Mage 4, Knight 5. So, good kit. I mean, we already went over Paladin Cecil on the Knight, so I'm not going to go too deep into him. BSBB, Legend Materia C, Complementary A. So why is Cecil showing up here? It's because he doesn't have to use his Burst 2. His Burst 2 is his tank burst. So let's move that out of the equation for a second and look at his USB and his OSB. This is it's BSB 1 too. I'd only consider this C tier as far as damage potential is concerned, and he gets updates. So the OSB is fine. It's a typical OSB with holy damage, sword, etc., etc. It's his USB that really puts him on this list. 10 single attacks, grants a X Paladin, which is I believe plus 100% defense, and gives him an attach holy. So this, using conjunction with his BSB2, actually gives, if you just want to use it by itself, it can be just chained endlessly while he HP Sock 6000s himself. So he never, actually takes damage, and he does holy damage over and over and over again. You could use this as, guard bringer, because the ex-paladin gives him plus defense. So he's actually a legitimate damage dealer just with his USB. And he gets a little bit of utility added in there too if you have his BSB2 to mix with it. So that's why he's on this list, where he does well on the knight list solely because of his BSB2. Let's take a look at ex-paladin, because I don't think it's more than 100% defense. Yeah, it's just 100% defense. So it's meant to be a guard bringer thing. And that's why Cecil's on here. We're going to place him in B tier. What's his legend materia? Yeah, the 40% chance to cover physical attacks. And you know what's interesting? I updated the knight list and reduced Cecil from S to A because I realized something about the materia. This doesn't work if someone has Sentinel in the party. A 40% chance to cover physical attacks to target allies. Well, physical attacks won't target allies if you have Sentinel on. So as the tank Cecil doesn't actually benefit from this that much. This is an attack Cecil thing because you can use his USB, which does not have Sentinel attached to it, and also cover your allies. So it's a little utility thing to add on damage Cecil. And the best cover materia for that. Reduces damage taken by holy attacks. Don't really care. Defense plus 3% for each hit taken. Don't really care. So it's not his legend materia isn't that great outside of his cover materia for damage Cecil. So he's going to be B. But as we know, that Cecil's also an effective tank too. So being as high as he is on 2 lists does a lot for his overall use as a character. And remember, he has an OSB as well, which is nice. Okay, moving on, we have Kayn, Lightning. Why do I have Kayn? This is supposed to be Dragoon 6. I was tired, okay? Leave me alone. BSB ranked as A, Legend Materia is D, Complimentary B. Okay. This worries me. Kayn kinda is limited to the effectiveness of his burst, and it would have been nice if he had the ability, like, if he could increase the effectiveness of his character through his Legend Materia. So I'm pretty sure Kayn, if his Legend Materia worth putting in D, isn't gonna advance beyond B tier. But let's go take a look at his burst. Super Soul Break, not that great because his burst kind of overtakes it. The burst has a no airtime command. So Dragoon's Pride, it's really Kayn's Pride. This is what makes Kayn. Grants haste attached lightning burst mode, typical. And keep in mind that he has an OSB that scales with Dragoon abilities used, which is fine. Unfortunately, it's an armor, not a 6-star weapon that he can use. Commands on his burst are 2 single ranged, grants no airtime 2 to the user, like I said. And we have 2 single ranged, Smart Ether 1 to the user. So this is like wishes it could trade with Lunith. Remember what I talked about Lunith's? In the fact that he's a wind dragoon and he's limited to his commands, which is fine because he has a 4-hit command. But he wishes that he could use Sky High, while Kayn cares about Sky High because he has a Smart Ether command, but he is advantaged by the fact that his enabling 5-star ability is Lightning Dive. Or he does have an enabling 5-star ability in Lightning Dive that works well with no airtime 2 if you were playing on a slower speed, and Smart Ether 1 if you don't feel like honing it, so that'll save you some orbs. But I feel like at this point that if you want to make Kayn a focus of your damage dealers, like on your Lightning team, that you're probably honing Lightning Dive to at least rank 2 and preferably rank 3. So the Smart Ether 1 doesn't come, um, doesn't have that as much use because you're probably also going to be using his first command with it to kind of, alternate and reduce your reliance on the hones on lightning dives. So you can, no airtime, say you get an R2 lightning dive, you use command 1, use 2 lightning dives, use command 1, use 2 lightning dives. And that's, usually enough to get you through a fight. And then you can Smart Ether 1 from there if you feel like it. So R2 is probably preferred. R3, luxury, to deal more damage in a smaller amount of time. So you don't have to rely on the second command. So that's Kain, and that's Kain's thing. That's his gimmick, and it doesn't really extend further than that, which is unfortunate. He does have the OSB, but his Legend Materia, we'll take a look, increases lightning damage dealt by 10%. That is good. Attack plus 2% for each jump attack used, up to 50%. Well, that's a deceptive 50% because you're not going to be using so many jump attacks that is going to be extending far beyond 20%. So it's not really that much of an increase. Dragoon abilities deal 25% more damage when equipping a spear. And here's where the OSB comes into play. Is OSB is armor. You would really, really love a 6-star spear that he could carry with him across realms. Unfortunately, you don't. And here's an important thing I haven't mentioned up until now, but Magicite dungeons don't have synergy. So it would have been really nice to have a 6-star spear to throw on him that has plus lightning damage, because that plus elemental damage just becomes so much more important when you get to Magicite dungeons. So he doesn't have that going for him. Again, we come back to Lightning's USB on the Lightning Sid Rain's banner. That's a 6-star weapon that has plus lightning on it, but it's a sword, so you can't even take advantage of this Legend Materia. It's a give and take. So obviously you'd want this over the sword, so you have to use a crappy weapon to get it. DNA has not allowed Kain to have his cake and eat it. And we're going to be putting Kain in B tier because his burst is high damage and really quite good, but he doesn't extend beyond that, and that's his primary failing. So he'll be in B tier. We have Kain. Nope, Yang. Sorry, got mixed up. Yang coming up next. We have Earth Monk 6. Those actually go together. BSB A tier. That's good. No Legend Materia. Ouch. Complimentary C. I think C's generous because I don't think I'd ever use his Super Soul Break. Except, I guess C's fitting because you would use it in a full throttle and torment situation. As the dude would say, Raffia's USB ties the room together. So Yang, we have a Super Soul Break that causes Imperil Earth. That's what I was talking about with Torment and Full Throttle. It's something to do if you have extreme excess of Soul Break, Torment Full Throttle, because it'll help out his damage output elsewhere. For his burst, though he has an Unbound Fury burst like Master, unfortunately he does not get those 4 effects on the opener. He only does have the typical Haste, Attach, Earth, and Burst mode. Taking a look at the commands, we see 4 single attacks, 5 attacks if user has Unbound Fury. So Joseph gets 6 attacks if user has Unbound Fury. Unfortunately, Joseph has no entry damage. And Master has 8 attacks if user has Unbound Fury. It makes sense at the end of the day when you consider that Yang has Attach Earth, which augments the damage output. Unfortunately, yeah, it's fine. Like you're not gonna sneeze at 50,000 damage a turn if you're capping, right? So force, but that's not really the gimmick of Unbound Fury. Unbound Fury is half cast time. The Unbound Fury reduces your defenses while giving you half cast time. That's your damage increase. So the 5 attacks plays less into it. This is a very high damage burst because of this. You have cast time, 5 attacks at N Earth mode status. Very, very high damage, and one of the best, as far as damage is concerned, high damage Earth bursts in the whole game. So that's great. Thanks, Yang, for being a contributor. And this occurs on the banner that is in a few days, this Thursday. And that's part of the reason why it makes it a good banner, because it's a fairly good burst. Legend. Do you have Legend Materia? No. Complementary C, that's the Imperil. So that's the extent of what Yang brings to the table. He's going to be another B tier goer. Maybe C. You'll be able to place him higher because he's an Earth Elemental. But you can do that when you look at the list later. I think C is probably the best place for him for now. While it is high damage, he's got nothing else. And he's a monk, so his ability pool isn't terribly large either. The only thing he can use among 6 is Meteor Crash. And it doesn't make much sense to use Life Bane with him either when you have a Command 1 as potent as his. So he's really just limited to that burst. Alright, Edge. Wow. That's a lot of stuff. So he's multi-elemental because he's a ninja. Combat 2. I make note of the Combat 2 because that means Edge is a non-life siphonable character. Celerity 6 gets better. Thief 4 is useful. Gives the character breakdowns. Or breakdown. You're probably usually only going to be using him for steel power. Ninja 6, not useful since he's a physical ninja, and Stitch in Time is a black mage ability. I know it's a ninja. You get it. Shooter 5, useful, but Edge's gimmick relies heavily on ninja abilities. It's unlikely that you will be using him for his Shooter 5. However, he is more of a water ninja. So the Sapphire Shot is useful for him if you need to use it. BSB I have rated as B because it's a good BSB, just not exceptional. LM is S tier. This is the first S tier we've seen so far, isn't it? Yeah. And complimentary A. So let's go take a look. What the hell happened to Edge? That made him good. So we've got a lot of slow breaks here. His Ebon Water Veil is notable for the fact that it's a katana with plus magic and plus water damage on it. It's a neat thing that some veterans have. I never was able to get it. Inferno, Super Soul Break, Instant Cast, yeah, whatever. This is Burst, Ebon Doppelganger. We'll take a look at that first. His utility, Super Soul Break, Instacast, Haste, Last Stand, and Physical Blink 1 to the party. If for those that have taken basic math, see that Instacast is 1 effect, Haste is 2 effects, Last Stand is 3 effects, and Physical Blink is 4 effects. This is not a Super Soul Break. It just says it's a Super Soul Break. With 4 effects, that means it is effectively a Ultra Soul Break. So, very, very powerful and complementary piece. We'll take a look at his burst now. 8 single attacks. Grants haste, attach, water, and burst mode. So, similar to Yuffie's, who I used yesterday in the Apocalypse Unalesca fight. Except it's single instead of area of effect. They both have their advantages. I think there's a lot of water single target available, where I think Yuffie's AoE is kind of an advantage. But anyway, you're never gonna say no to single target. because that's what most of the damage in the game needs to be dealt. We have ninja cast time commands at 0.83 for single to group. It's typical, but increased damage output because of ninja cast. This is always a great benefit, half cast time. So even though these look plain Jane, they're actually quite good because of that. And this is why it's B. It would be average if not for this incredible, or not incredible, but good benefit. But the real advantage and why Edge moved into the upper echelon of characters is because his BSB is kind of unlocked. Edge is only fine for dealing water damage with his BSB, but the character and his A-team potential is unlocked with his USB. We have 10 random attacks, water and lightning, and grants Wild Moon to the user. So, pretty standard, less than standard. There's not a whole lot going for it, unless Wild Moon is good. And we have a whole brick of text here to take a look at. Yeah. So this could be really good. Grants high quick cast 1 after using a water attack. It's interesting. You can only reduce the cast time of a ninja cast time command so far. So you do receive reduced benefit from high quick cast 1. What's a third of cast time of a 0.83? It's like 2.7 or something. Faster is always better, but it's not as beneficial as it sounds. So I guess that's what I'm trying to get across there. Grants Water Bolt Seal after using a ninja ability if the user has any physical blank. This appears weird, but with the way that they move physical ninjas in the future, it's actually really good. So we really need to explore everything available to both ninjas and his Legend Materia to see how good this USB status is. First, Water Bolt Seal. What's Water Bolt Seal? Water Bolt Seal is 1 to 1 to 2 single attacks that do 2.16 multiplier damage each if the user has physical blink 0, 1, or 2. So really, a lot of this is dependent on his physical blink. Not only Water Bolt Seal is, and the stat. Why did I? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a given, right? So he's meant to use ninja abilities even faster than ninja. I mean, it's almost, it's getting pretty low on the cast timer. So he really just chains him. And I really think the thing that makes Edge as good as he is in dealing all of this water damage is his Legend Materia. One, we have a 35% chance to dual cast ninja abilities. This is really good. Really, really good. Not only from a damage output perspective, but the fact that his damage output is enabled by having all these physical blanks. So using these dual cast ninja abilities, how can we get him magic blanks? And then we look to his LMR. His LMR is basically required to get all this working as well as it should. And that's a 25% chance to grant physical blink 1 to the user after using a ninja ability. So we're casting abilities at super speeds, hopefully dual casting them, which all give the ability to give him physical blink 1 to the user after using a ninja ability. So just with his USB and his BSB alone, we have the potential to increase his damage output considerably using that Water Bolt Seal little chase mechanic. Because if we have physical blinks on him, because you can have more than one blink on yourself at one time, it enables that. It's a fairly high multiplier Water Bolt Seal, and you probably have attached water on yourself from the burst as well. So we're chasing that, and there's other ways to enable it. And here's the last piece of the puzzle for Edge. We're not going to search. We'll just arrange this by rarity as I usually do. So we got some physical ninja abilities coming, and they're water and dark based. We're going to look at the water ones for now. Just know that the dark are a complete carbon copy except different element. So we have 2 5-stars. This is going to require a considerable amount of dark orbs if you decide to go down the way of the Edge, but it's beneficial if you do, because he's probably one of the highest damage dealers in the game because of it. So for these abilities at Ninja Cast time, and also enabled by his Wild Moon status, grants Physical Blink 1 and Physical Blink stacking 2 to the user. That's great. And we have a second ability, 2, 3, 4 physical attacks, or single attacks doing water damage if the user has Physical Blink 1 or 2. Also enabled by his USB. And you can chase these Water Bolt Seals, these double casts that give you Physical Blink 1, that have a chance to give another Physical Blink 1 to your character. So the fact that you're casting all these so fast and accumulating Physical Blinks is actually good in a utility base too, because he takes no physical damage, because you're going to be ripping off Physical Blinks on yourself all the time. So even if you're not able to chain these into like Water Bolt Seal procs, by having, Physical Blink 1 or 2 on your character, you're still at least protecting yourself, and that's another little benefit. Yeah, this all just works so well together, and it becomes just a machine gun of ninja abilities and physical blinks. It's 15 seconds duration on the Wild Moon status. And these abilities are actually very important for Edge, because as we noted when we first started taking a look at the character, Edge does not have Combat 4 capability. So while his burst is good and works very well with what he does, unfortunately, by not having Combat 4, the ability for him to use his burst with his USB isn't really feasible. So get ready to throw some orbs into these water abilities for Ninja if you go down the Edge USB route. So I am going to place him in S tier just because of his extreme damage output, but understand that there's a cost involved due to the fact that he has no life siphon capability and no soul break generation. The only thing you're relying on is his ability to fast cast things, which means one of two things: you either suck it up and high hone your shit, and then cast his USB and then work off of that, or you use Mako Might on him. So he draws Mako Might from other characters, and I personally don't like that out of my damage dealers. I'd prefer to use them on more utility-focused characters, and then just let damage dealers life siphon a couple times instead to get to the same benefit. Yeah. So that's, if there is a drawback to all of this, and this giant mess of things that he does, it's that. And I personally feel like it's kind of big, but I'm still going to be putting him in S tier anyways, because it is a limitation that he can overcome. Alright, next we have Galoof, Dual Elemental. Oh yeah, he's an odd little duck. Monk 6, BSB B, Legend Materia D, Complementary B. Oh, that's depressing, Galoof. I love my Galoof. He's one of my old favorites. So we have the Unyielding Fist, Unshaken Resolve Super Soul Break that enables the Galoof shenanigans. It's more of a fun gimmick, and doesn't really work with anything else that he does, so I'm not going to include it as part of his rating. If you want to have fun doing the Galoof things, you know, feel free. Unyielding Fist is... it makes him just invulnerable, and you can... But he can still Life Siphon during his invulnerability, which means if you use it and then are able to time the recast to go off after the Unyielding Fist ends, you can just maintain an Unyielding Fist invulnerability for an entire fight and just allow him to, you know, solo anything because he can't die. So his burst is actually good. Fire, Earth, 6 single attacks, causes Imperil Fire. So a little confused. The Earth is not that beneficial because he's imperiling his fire. Grants haste burst mode. Take a look at commands. We've got Galoof. 4 single. Both commands are fire and earth. 4 single attacks. Restores HP to lowest HP ally for 30% of their maximum HP. Love that. Really like that. Comes on Raffia and Theodore as well. Both of them better characters, unfortunately, for Galoof. But still, it makes this one of the better Imperil Fire bursts because of this. Sorry, and he also has a group effect where he restores HP to the lowest ally for 30% of their maximum HP. So that's good too. It's a good Imperil Fire burst. I like it. B tier. And I rated it B. Inner Peace, Super Soul Break, grants high regen, critical 25 or 50% for 25 seconds, and attach fire to the user. That's high regen and critical 50% to everybody. So that's a really good Super Soul Break. Definitely an awesome, probably full throttle torment thing, because in a normal fight, because he's an Imperil Fire Burst, it's going to be something that every time your Soul Break comes available to cast, you're going to want to cast it again. So you can keep stacking that Imperil. Whereas the Attach Fire only really helps him... Well, it doesn't really... critical 50%. I don't know, it's a good Super Soul. USB. This is where Galoof gets a little weird. Attack and Magic 30% to all allies, grants haste to all allies. So this is already as good as Riku's USB, which is much celebrated. But instead of giving Protecka and Shelga, it grants Attach Earth to the user instead. Which is weird. It's pretty weird. I guess it means Galoof can, instead of just being limited to fire, can also become an Earth character. So what you would do is, I guess, use his burst and Life Siphon up to a USB cast, which just gives him Attach Earth. Unfortunately, and here's my problem with it, is it's confused as hell. Because if you're using these two together, by putting him in an Earth situation, it loses the effect of the Imperil Fire, so it doesn't work well with that. So it reduces the effectiveness of the burst. There is no damage component on the USB, so you're giving yourself Attach Earth only for the benefit of the cast on the BSB. So it's just a little confused. And by splitting his strengths like this between fire and earth, and forcing his fire things to work with his earth things, it kind of diminishes him in both elements. And that's unfortunately my problem with Galoof. However, as a purely Imperil Fire character, it's still good. And because he does have this capability to do earth things as well, and has a good Super Soul Break, I am going to compare him against Guy, who doesn't have these little things that add to Galoof's capabilities. Galoof will exceed Guy, Guy being C tier. Galoof will go into B tier. No, the Ultra is a buff to party, and that's why Galoof gets B tier. It is attack magic 30% and a Heiska. It, like I said, Rika's USB, but attach Earth instead of Protect and Shelter. It is good. Just confused. Yeah. Well, I mean, Rex is gonna be tomorrow. Oh, so we got Bart's coming in next. Well, if we're going by these grades, which we shouldn't, because I don't rate people on a conglomerate average of these 3 grades, then he's the best character we've reviewed so far. With 2 S's and an A on Burst Soulbreak. Bart's is multi-elemental, and he's effectively multi-elemental, not like Pain. Spellblade 6, he's a true Spellblade. Thief 4, it's good for getting that power breakdown. Knight 3, in case you need to draw fire, it's a useful little thing. And Shooter 5, which gets... I don't know if he has that now or if that is part of his buff in the future. But yeah, I mean, he's got a whole lot going for him already. So let's go take a look at the Barts. Wow. Is this more soul breaks than we've seen on any character so far? Let's go from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're not going to get it, but I mean, it's part of the list. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 soul breaks. Well, he has a lot of things, a lot of options. Do you remember back in the day, True Blade of Legend? One of the, like, second wave of Super Soul Breaks that really, like, had legs and was good for a long time. I loved the Super Soul Break, that plus 50% defense. So we got his first burst, second burst, and third burst. Yeah, you saw that right? Bart's is the only character in the game with 3 bursts. His first burst is something I want to throw on the back burner for a second. By itself, it is bad. It gives 6 single attacks, is 0 elemental on cast, and grants haste and burst mode to the user. For those keeping track, that means it is a weaker allowance power-wise than any other burst that we've taken a look at so far, since they all have haste, X buff in whatever way, and burst mode. And not only that, but it is also non-elemental. It is so bad. But the commands are what we're going to put on the back burner, and I'll come back to that in a second. Choco Romp is just plain Soul Break, which will be available when we eventually get the Tyro Selection Volume 3. And is probably the best item in the selection because it's a plus wind light armor. Is fine. It does wind damage, group range, grants attached wind. So even though it's just plain Soul Break, you can recast it a few times if in case you want to do the Final Fantasy V Torment CM. You could probably just recast this a bunch of times and win. He has an OSB, Hand of the Crystals. It's one of the worst in the game. We have wind, water, fire, and earth damage capability. Breaks damage cap, range attack. It gains benefit because Bart's is Bart's. Bart's, like his Final Fantasy V sister in ARMS, his bad things gain benefit because he is Bart's. While Ferris's bad things gain benefit and become good things, and even great things, because Ferris is Ferris. And the presence of Magicite dungeons in the game make this an okay OSB. Wouldn't use them in the Magicite dungeons by itself, but we're getting to what enables Bart's and all of these little weird things that he accumulated over time. So soon we're going to be getting a Final Fantasy V event where he gets Woken Water, his second burst soul break. It is, while he had a multi-elemental first soul break because of its commands, on his second soul break we get Woken Water, which is properly allotted power on the entry. Haste, attach water, and burst mode to the user. We have a quick attack, celerity cast speed, but no elemental because it doesn't do damage, does it? It does. The 2.0 non-elemental damage. Okay, it's weird. Single strike, mug power, I guess. I mean, attack minus 40% for 20 seconds and attack 50% to the user for 20 seconds. I guess. I mean, I would rather this have been elemental, and the single attack hits it too. So we want to see a lot of value in our second command for this burst to be any good, because it needs to grow on the utility of the first command. And we don't really get that. It's just a basic cast time command for 4 single attacks. So it's just a single target water burst. And ironically, even though his first burst is as bad as it is, this ends up being his worst burst. So moving on, we have... I suppose I should do his burst 3 next. Yeah, I'll do his burst 3 before we get to his USB, because he's, one of those main characters that gets that USB that completely changes the way the character's played. 8 single attack, grant haste and attach earth. Okay, Bart's, now you're doing earth too. Okay, we're doing that thing. Dwelling earth. Earth and wind, both commands. So you got wind as a component too, which is useful, and you'll find out why later. 4 single attacks on your first command, grant Spellblade plus 15% boost to the user. Yes, finally, good benefit on a strong command that benefits from the N element status. We have 3 single attacks and grants Meikyo Shisui to the character for 20 seconds. This is a great buff. So you'd use the buff, and then you'd, in a typical situation with just the burst, concentrate with his first command, and we eventually get a 5-star Spellblade that does earth damage, AoE earth damage. So he has that available to him as well. So you're not that broken up about the fact that he doesn't have an AoE command here. So Meikyo Shisui is plus 30% attack and plus 30% resistance, I believe. Great buff. And it's unique status. That's why it's named. So it stacks with everything. And you use that, and then you use the Spellblade. And this is just a really good burst. Really good burst. And all of the... except for that mug command, something to keep in mind is all of these burst commands are Spellblade. And now we get to what really enables Bart's, and what turns what used to be bad soul breaks into good soul breaks. His Chosen Traveler, USB. So it don't worry about the fact that you don't have his OSB, even though it gets better, because this 7.0 versus the 10.0 isn't that much of a difference. And they both do the same thing. Both elements, both the same elements, both the same cast times. So if you need to cast his USB instead of his USB, don't sweat not having Hand of the Crystals. A cool thing to aim for if you really want to, but it's not something you should pull for, whereas his USB is. So not only in addition to that 7.0 multi-elemental damage, we have 10 single attacks. It grants X Spellblade Flurry to the user for 15 seconds. Okay. What's Spellblade Flurry? Wow. That's another huge block of text. We have attack 30%, plus 30%. Cast speed becomes half cast speed for everything. That's great. Where other people's USBs give them chaining effects, like if you use a fire ability, you get quick cast again. This just halves your cast speed for everything for the 15 seconds. And you don't have to worry about what element it is, even though obviously most of the stuff he does is so multi-elemental, you probably would have been hitting it anyway. But anyway, we have casts one wind, water, fire, earth flurry after dealing wind, water, fire, earth damage. You can line that up. I trust that you have the brain to do that. So it will do one of these flurries every time you use a Spellblade ability, the respective element. And here is what those abilities do. It is similar to Edge's Wild Moon, where he does the Water Bolt Seal thing. But for each Spellblade of these 4 elements that you do, it randomly deals 2 or 8 random attacks at 0.4 multiplier each, just as a bonus. And it's 50% split between each. Now, that's already good because of the 50% split. So it's not like a low chance thing like Setzer's enabling things. And 8.4 is 3.2. That's even better than like his Spellblade things. And if you have the attached status from like Earth or whatever, if you're able to give him the attached status, it can do even more. 3.2 plus 1 point, that's 4.8. If you're doing using him as a Earth Spellblade, this 8 strike would do a 4.8 fire or Earth attack, spread between 8 hits, so no capping issues. That's gross. That is already gross, and enables him as a competent Spellblade for all 4 like elemental types. And consider that they have a school attached to these abilities and they're Spellblade, so they get plus 15% more damage from that that first command on his 3rd burst. Furthermore, Legend Materia. And what makes Bart's Legend Materia S tier is Spellblade abilities do 50% more damage. Wow, that's good. It's good, and it's crazy that you wouldn't even use this. It's a consolation prize if you're unable to get his LMR. 35% chance to dual cast Spellblade abilities. Now you're blowing my mind. The amount of damage that Bart's can output in a single turn using this USB, and even just USB alone, but with the BSB, now you're blowing my mind. And here is where everything just falls off the rails, is he has a 10% chance to dual cast his Spellblade abilities twice. So he can potentially quad cast Spellblades, which all have that bonus ability attached to them that we looked in the Spellblade Flurry. Like, Bart's is at the top of S tier. He's at the top of S tier. And let's go back and look at Bart's first Burst Soul Break, which just is terrible right now. Really just embarrassingly bad. And understand that this enables Bart's to Spellblade in all elements, even the ones not covered by his excellent Burst Soul Break 3 or his middling Burst Soul Break 2. He also gets access to Wind and Fire as well. Obviously not as good as the other 2, but still at the point where they become very effective when coupled with his USB. Bart's is so far through S tier. Yeah. Not only is he so good, but he does this in 4 different elements. He's just gross. Easiest decision of my life. And puts Raffia and Edge in jeopardy. Just because of how they're basking in his greatness. Moving on. We have Locke, another supposed main character, just because you start out with him in the game. Fire, Celerity 6, Thief 6, Shooter 6? Man, I was tired. There is no Shooter 6, but there is Celerity 6 and Thief 6, and they're both good 6-star ability schools to have. Lock, BSB, rank B. Legend Materia, rank B, complimentary, S. Really? Let's see. Man, we're already at Final Fantasy 6. I mean, stream's been up 3 hours. That makes sense. God, 3 hours. Okay, Lock. I like his BSB, by the way. 5 group attacks, cause Imperil Fire, 20%. Grants haste burst mode to the user, you know, blah, blah, blah. This is exactly what you're looking for from an Imperil Fire. Or an Imperil, just like Agrius and Beatrix. Those are the baselines that I always go back to, if you haven't noticed. So, Lock's burst commands. Looks like we got a mug that is non-elemental. Unfortunate. However, it is attack and magic minus 20% for 20 seconds. So, we can forgive it for being non-elemental. That is a nice stacking command. Though he can't benefit from the magic. And it's not as good as Layla's, which I believe is both elemental and attack and mind, which stacks better. It's still a good command. And on his second command, we have 4 single attacks at these are at celerity cast speed. All fire and holy damage. So it's a good burst. I would have liked if he had an AoE option. This makes him rely on the Shooter 4 ability for his AoE option for fire, which is only single hit. So, unfortunate there. But again, I mean, Agrius and Beatrix also suffer from that. No, they don't. They get Aegis Strike. Never mind. So, Locke suffers a little bit there. But he's still high damage and Pearl Fire Burst. This is good. Gets a OSB. 11.0, split between 2 elements. Breaks damage cap. Oh, that's Celeste. What am I doing? OSB. Fire and Holy. 10.0, not 11.0. Half cast time. Would much prefer a higher multiplier than the half cast time. That's for sure. Especially because he's a Celerity 6, which means he has Power Chain access. So, I mean, using Power Chain with a 2.5 with a higher multiplier would be much better than using Power Chain and reducing half of that cast speed for a lower multiplier. So, don't like the fact that some of the power is concentrated here, and otherwise it is nondescript and just does that 10.0 damage. So it's a pretty bad OSB, all things considered. Unfortunate. Locke gets another Super Soul Break. Southern Cross just gives him Attached Fire. Good complementary Soul Break. Works with his BSB well. And we see, as we saw previously, with people's like higher 6-star Soul Breaks, where it would have a benefit that was also mimicked by his burst and also mimicked by Super Soul Breaks. That is not the case in Locke. It's what makes him, like, though his OSB may be bad, it's a completed painting, I guess. His 6-star Soul Break is the Fire Chain. He's the owner of the Fire Chain. And it doesn't give him something dumb like do Imperil Fire or Attach Fire, which is available to him in his other Soul Breaks. It does something really awesome instead and gives a defense and resistance minus 50% debuff, as well as doing the Fire Chain. Works together with everything that he does. And this is why I have him as a complimentary S, because he's very complimentary. It's not going to be enough to push him out of A tier top, but it's still a nice thing. And let's take a look at his Legend Materia and see if we can make a tier for A tier for him. A case for A tier. Restores HP 100%, uses match HP, and grants Phoenix mode when HP falls below 20%. Okay, we'll take a look at Phoenix mode in a second. And it grants Attached Fire at the beginning of the battle. I like that. I like that on Locke. There's some characters that I don't like that on. But Locke, it kind of works for, because he has abilities that benefit from him being a Make a Might user, with his chain and his Imperil. Imperil is something you like to have down as soon as you can, because it being down allows the other fire people in your party to take advantage of it and increase their damage and soul break output. So him taking the Mako Might or Dr. Mog's teachings from your party increases the soul break output of everyone else in the party. So he actually benefits from having Mako Might. And the reason why I rate the attach elemental legend materia lower than you'd think they would be is because usually you're spending the start of the fight with these characters using like Wrath or Life Siphon and not taking advantage for this at all. So it loses a lot of its benefit. Let's take a look at Phoenix mode and see if that can push Locke into an A tier. Oh yeah, his OSB is a great relic. It's a plus holy damage all realms dagger. So it's one of the best augment targets in the entire game, just because of how useful it is. Phoenix mode. Cast speed times 2.0, attack 30%, 35%. At least it lasts 25 seconds. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's good. Obviously, it's good. Is it enough for A, though? So the cast speed 2 is nice for 25 seconds. It's just, I don't... This is like a buff, a percent... You can't count on these 20% buffs. He has to drop below 20% health for it to activate. You can't count on him. I don't know. I'm still... Yeah, you know what? With Fire Chain, OSB, a good burst, I think he's a good A candidate. I think I like him at A. Next on the list, we have Celeste. Seen her before. Multi-elemental, White Mage 4, Spellblade 6, Knight 6, great ability pool. BSB, we know is very, very nice. Legend Materia, we know is very, very nice. And Complementary is good. A might be a little high on Complementary. Sorry about that. I dropped my headset. Anyway, Celeste. Yeah, we know her as the Grand Cross user. Went over thoroughly on the Knight list, and she will rank higher on the Knight list than she will here. She's a very effective damage dealer, and very effective in multi-elements. But she will lag behind as far as damage dealing is concerned. Because the only two elements that she does like supremely effectively is Holy and Ice, because those are her 4-time hit burst commands. Everything else will be limited to 2. So even though she has the double casts, I guess she can do fire as well if you've got her Burst Soul Break 1, which is also part of the banner. So, I don't know, maybe. But, we're looking at her Burst Soul Break 2, and she only has Holy and Ice on both attacks. 2 group, 4 single, grant Spellblade plus 15%, and the chance of double cast and she gains more soul break usage with by exploiting weakness. I'm gonna rate her as A because I do feel like she does lag behind damage behind the other S tiers. But she S tiers Knight easily and A tiers on damage dealing, and yeah, that's something to take in consideration. One of the best characters in the game, just on this list, isn't going to perform as well as a lot of other people. However, extremely, extremely good. She's an S tier character. A for physical damage dealers. Okay, we got Edgar. Edgar's on this list because while Edgar is a knight, he doesn't really do knightly things. Everything he does is damage based. His OSB, damage. His BSB, it's all damage. Poison element, so interesting. Knight 6, Machinist 6, and Shooter 5. That's an interesting skill set. BSB is C because it's just an attached poison. Standard burst soul break. That you can afflict some statuses, but it's hard to consider that part of the actual benefit of it because they were so rarely effective. That is true GM custom. he's got a little issue there. We don't like to talk about that. Complementary B, because probably yes, is his OSB. He's a very basic character, and I'm not going to go into those things because he's so basic. Just AoE OSB, which is unique and cool, and what gives him the complementary B. But BSB is really plain Jane damage poison, while a poison character is only a C tier character for damage dealers. Sabin, Fire, Monk 6, BSB C, Legend Materia A. So he gets a little bit of a boost there, and so was really underwhelmed by his BSB. And complementary B. Oh yeah, I love that Super Soul Break of his, the Asuna one. Asuna Medica. So we got Perdition's Phoenix, his Burst Soul Break. Does 7, 8, 9, 10 attacks at 7.0 each. And he unlocks the 7.0 at 1700 attack, which is attainable but difficult. And God, there's an issue I have with this. I just don't understand why. Like, 10 single attacks at 7.0 or 0.7 each, sorry, isn't even that much damage. Like, if you're gonna hide an unlock behind a huge attack gate like that, at least make the benefit nice, and it's not. So, there's that. It's just a regular burst. Like, this is just a complicated way of saying that, okay, it's an attached fire burst. Perdition's Phoenix. 4 single attacks, 4.0 or 0.4 each. Attack and defense, 10%. Scaling with uses. And 2 group attacks, basic. This isn't as good as it sounds. I guess it's kind of neat. It's better than average, which is why I think I have it rated as B. Because at least it's 4 single with a little added benefit to it. But, yeah. The whole plus attack gimmick, not as good. Yeah, it's not as good as it looks. Obviously, it's meant to help him on recast to get to that, the 7.0, but, yeah. So B tier burst. Soul Spiral is a really cool super soul break. Stores HP 40%, maximum health. And as a group Asuna, group Medica, and gives everyone defense plus 100%. That's a really good super soul break. Like it. Has an OSB, breaks damage cap, and does extra damage exploiting weakness. This is a good OSB. So we saw that his Legend Materia was the highest grade that he had. And this is why, and this is probably, this is what makes his burst better than how I was treating it when I was talking about it. If you're dual casting his command 1, then you're able to iterate up faster and get those, get up to that 80%, which, while it isn't, plus 80% damage or something like that, it's still a considerable amount. And with his ability to increase fire damage by 10%, I can see why I put this as an A. It's the best part of him. Sabin's still probably just a B tier character, but at least he's got this little mix working for him. However, this is one of those things that's gated behind moats, and it's tough to look at a B tier, low A character and want to dedicate all the moats that it would take to be able to unlock these. Just for a character as limited in scope as Sabin. So, unfortunate. Next on the list we have Shadow. Shadow is good. Shadow is the dark version of Edge. He doesn't have some of the cool toys that Edge has, but Shadow has one thing that Edge does not, and that is a life siphon access. Well, let's take a look at his BSB 1. It is currently in the game, and it is currently the best physical burst for daily farming. That's its claim to fame right now. However, it is good beyond that. It's an attached dark burst, but in addition to being haste, attached dark, and burst mode, also has the extra benefit for free of being instant cast. Really nice. Insta cast. Getting rid of that giant cast timer off of soul breaks is really nice. The burst commands are fairly basic. Same thing as Edge's, same thing, except dark focused, which is 4 single, 2 group, at ninja cast speed. So while generic ninja cast speed is always a plus. Huge plus. So good burst. And now we see with his USB, it doesn't have all the toys that Edge has available to him with that Eblin Doppelganger, good super soul break. But it does have this Instacast USB that says Overcome Past. He has hell of a past to overcome for those who have played Final Fantasy VI. And it really is just looks word for word almost with Edges. Just does damage and then grants him this Overcome Past status. Let's take a look at it. Grants high quick cast 1 after using a dark attack. Sounds familiar. Grants residual blade after using a ninja ability if a character has any physical blink. Sounds awfully familiar. Let's take a look at the residual blade. Dark, non-elemental, cast instantly, 1 to 1 to 2 single attacks. Character has any physical blink. This really is just a carbon copy of Edge. So what makes Edge... What differentiates the two, but beyond just their elemental? Because we saw in the ninja abilities that ninja has a carbon copy of those 2 blink abilities as dark components as well, which you rely on less with Shadow because he has the ability to use Life Siphon, which means it's much more viable to use both his burst and his USB together. So you're not as dependent on the 5-star abilities, which is an added benefit. Less dark orb expenditure. I know that's a hot topic, is those dark orbs. Let's take a look at his Legend Materia. And this is where they deviate a little bit, I believe, right? Let me see Edge. Yeah, the Edge LMR is what defines him, I believe, and like or differentiates him from Shadow. It's a 25% chance to grant physical blink 1 to the user after using a ninja ability. And with all his dual casting and the fact that his chase effect with the water on the Wild Moon also have the ability to proc this, which boosts his damage output and his survivability because of the physical blinks and how that reacts, is what defines him. Where Shadow, unfortunately, gets saddled instead with the lowly Attached Dark at the beginning of battle, which is a status attainable through his BSB, which appears on the same banner as his USB, and is a viable part of all the combo for him because he has Life Siphon access. But he also has the 35% chance to dual cast ninja abilities. So that's what changes between Shadow and Edge. I think they're both extremely, extremely good characters, and I would still put Shadow at S tier because of it. It's just that there's a difference. It's the Life Siphon versus Edge and his physical blink shenanigans. Shadow's dual cast is not from Gacha. The way to read this Legend Materia list is the first two are always going to be Legend Materia obtained from moats, while the third one, or in the third one and anything past that, in case we ever get someone with the fourth, will be obtainable from Legend Materia relics. So the Attached Dark, being a Legend Materia relic, is neat. It means you don't need it. Yeah. Right, yeah, that's true. I mean, he does do more ninja damage because you'll be using the 15% instead of the Attached Dark, because the Attached Dark is just a duplicate of what his burst brings. So he does get the increased damage output too. And that's why he's on the same level as Edge. Even though Edge, does the mechanic in a cooler way, he's still good. And we get the Cyan now, which was my chief surprise. He was the biggest surprise when I was going over these, because he's one of the most maligned characters in the game up to this point in global. Fire, Samurai 6. Doesn't he have some Night? Does he not have Night? Did I forget to put that? Thought he had Night 3. No, yep, he's just really a samurai. Okay. Well, no, 35% dual cast plus 15% damage is definitely A tier LM. If I have edges at anything less than S, then that's the problem. Okay, so back to science. Sorry. So he's just a samurai, just a guy trying to, adhere to the code of Bushido, right? Does fire damage, which samurai gets, as far as we know at the moment, in Fire Blossom, which is a horrific, not horrific. It's just a bad 4-star single hit ability. But AoE damage, hey. BSB, I have ranked as A. That's interesting. Legend Materia A. Whoa, what? And Complementary B. So let's go take a look at Cyan and what makes him a candidate for one of the better characters. So we got Science Burst. We'll look at that first. We have 8 single attacks, grants critical 50% to all allies for 25 seconds, grants haste and retaliate and burst mode to the user. This is a lot of stuff. Does attacks, grants crit to him, grants haste, and grants retaliate, so you don't have to cast that separately, so that's cool. So this is a good entry on a burst so far. Do we have an element on you? Non-elemental. Well, It's unfortunate. Commands. Also non-elemental commands. Does a single target drain strike command. Stinks. 4 single attacks. Grants Dark Mark to the user for 20 seconds. Well, why did I have this ranked A? Well, it's not an A rank burst, okay? I was wrong about that. But his burst does get a little better. Because he has one of those USB things that they're doing a better job at help fleshing out characters with. So Cyan gets a USB called Bushido Oblivion. And this is where his fire element comes from. And honestly, you don't need his burst. All you really need with Cyan is his USB to enable him to be good. It does a lot of fire damage. Grants attached fire, high retaliate, which sounds better than it is, and critical damage 50% to the user. Good. Critical damage 50% to the user. You think, okay, well that makes his burst a lot better because he grants himself critical 50%. Well, he doesn't have to worry about that. I believe. Yeah, I think. Well, we'll get to it in a second. Anyway, so he high retaliate. We'll go take a look at that right now. Even though I could have just recited this for memory. We have can't be hit by physical attacks, same thing as retaliate. Counters physical attacks with an ability, single 1.2 physical. Whereas retaliate counters physical attacks with attack, which is effectively 1.0 physical. So you get a 20% damage boost on your basic attacks. That's the difference between high retaliate and retaliate. Nothing to write home about, but at least it's something, right? Okay, so we get attached fire as well. This is good. High retaliate, this is actually good. And critical damage, 50% to the user. So you'd think at first glance that this is meant to be used with this Reverse Soul Break because of the way the critical crit fix and the crit damage interact with each other. However, we have new samurai abilities coming, and they're fire-based. We have Wildfire Blade, which is a 3.0 fire, 4 single attacks. Very important. It's very nice for a 5-star ability to have 4 single attacks. Grants 100 or 50% critical chance if the user has retaliate or high retaliate. So you don't need his burst soul break to enable this combination because he will have a high crit chance and high critical as long as you have retaliate active for him. So this is meant to be used with his USB. And we have on his second ability available to fire samurais, which is limited to basically Cyan, is the 2 single attacks grants retaliate to the user. Better than retaliate, right? I mean, we've been using that 2-star ability for so long for all things retaliate that it's nice that we get an update. Besides that 6-star piece of trash that they decided to give us. Edge is S. Cecil B. Yep. Well, Paladin Cecil B. So these 2 abilities were meant to be used with Cyan. You're probably only going to be using Wildfire Blade though, because Life Siphon. You're going to want Life Siphon on him. So you Life Siphon out his USB. Then you use some of that 5-star ability. Then you make sure you keep your retaliate going by life siphoning out another USB, and so on and so on and so on. You do that, so you could actually deal some decent damage. And I think what makes him above average as a character is the fact that he has a chance to dual cast samurai abilities and increase of samurai ability damage. Just add this together with him and He's B. We'll give him B. He would be A if his burst soul break did fire damage. But the fact that it's non-elemental and doesn't really play with the good stuff that Cyan does, unfortunately, doesn't push him ahead. The list doesn't have an F, nor does it have an E. Anytime someone goes an E, I just removed them from the list because it was bogging down the list with people who don't even belong to be compared here. If they're not on the list, it's either I made a mistake or they don't even belong in the comparison. Gao. Here's someone's borderline E. Gao, where are you at? Okay, I passed it. So he's got a burst, right? Grants Dark Bargain on cast. That's interesting. Grants haste, quick cast 3 to the user. Wow, this has a lot going for it. It grants quick cast 3 and Dark Bargain to the user on cast. Okay, what do the commands do? I'll let you take a look while I mute for 1 moment. Alright, sorry, I am back. So we got Flame Rage and we got Recover Rage. So his burst commands don't tell you anything about what they actually do. So let's go take a look at these statuses. No, they should be under the other tier. Flame Rage. Oh no, I need to be more specific. Alright, so we got 3 different Flame Rage abilities and 3 different Recover Rage abilities. So what we know so far is if you use one of these commands, you get locked into a Rage mode for 3 turns. And on each turn, you randomly use one of the 3 abilities as part of the Rage. So part of the Flame Rage, so while this in concept could be an interesting burst, we see that it really is not. So Flame Rage first is 2 group ranged attacks. Oh. Oh, sorry, that's Gao's, never mind, sorry. 3 group ranged attacks. Same reaction. Oh. 3 single attacks for 9.0 each. Oh. And the 40%er, the highest percent chance, is a single 1.0 basic attack. Yeah. Great. DNA, thank you. Like, so much. I really just appreciate what you're doing for this character. Recover Rage. 30% chance of all allies HP 30% restore. That's not bad, but it's only a 30%er. And this one's bad. And you know what? This Recover Rage would actually be fairly okay if this second command wasn't Random Ally. Random Ally gets recovered for their 70% of their maximum HP. That doesn't target anyone, doesn't target lowest. It is just Random Ally. Yeah, that stinks. And the 40%er, the last one, is it restores a random ally for 30% of their maximum HP. This BSB is hot, steaming compost heat trash that needs to decay and be rid from this world. There you go. Gao should probably be taken off the list. He's DT. He's not even effective. Not effective damage dealer. The worst character on the list. Yeah, that'd be Ace. Gambles more than Setzer, apparently. Umaro. Ice Monk. Alright. Joining the Joseph crew. But he isn't. Umaro actually does some utility things. BSBB, complimentary E. Umaro, where are you at, buddy? Okay, we got a BSB, all enemies, physical ice, grants attach ice. Okay, basic start. Umaro. We have restore HP for 40% of target's maximum HP, grants instant cast 1. So that's kind of cool. He can just sit there healing at instant cast speed, I guess. I mean, why wouldn't you use a healer instead? Because this does no damage. So while interesting, it's not terribly practical. It's more a Sid mission burst at the moment. 3 single attacks, grants hailstorm to the user for 20 seconds. This is better. At least we get 3 single attacks. Grants hailstorm, increasing his attack, and uses the ice element. However, he can either be a weirdo off healer, or he can do 3 single attacks of ice damage with his burst. Did I rate this as B? I didn't mean to rate this as B. It's not good. And Green Cherry is... every time I go through... It's another random thing. You get a random effect, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. So bad. So Umaro's D tier. Boo, boo, boo. And Cloud. Alright, we're finally down to our last realm of the day. This is, I tried to reduce the time on this, but apparently we're up to 3 hours anyway. Sorry for anyone that's sat through this. So we got Cloud. Wind. Spellbreak 5 because he doesn't get 6 access. Knight 3, interesting, draw fire access. Samurai 6, cool because Samurai gets a little better. BSB is A tier. He has a good BSB too. Legend Materia S because of something that is semi-unique between him and Noctis. And complimentary S because we've all heard the things that Cloud's USB is capable of. Hello, Wilk. So let's take a look at his his BSB1 is not even worth looking at. It's not elemental damage, and it's bad damage at that. The random attacks don't do anything special because he doesn't apply any debuffs. This is the only reason you want random attacks on something. It's just bad in every regard, and it was barely any good when it first came out. Clem Hazard is since been overtaken since he has attached wind on his good burst Soulbreak 2. Finishing Touch is just a basic wind OSB for 12.0 multiplier. Cloud Cycle 2, his burst Soulbreak is very good. And it's part of what originally, when it first came out, finally moved Cloud into one of the better physical tiers. 8 single attacks, grants haste, attach wind, and burst mode to the user. So pretty basic on start. And when it first came out, this was a kind of a unique multiplier increase where he's got Dark Bargain group attacks on the first command, but he has a multiplier increase with a user's attack on the second command. And I believe it is similar to the other one that we looked at, where it's exactly 0.65 multiplier per attack at 977 attack, which isn't that difficult to hit when you consider that he's going to be 20% plus strength in burst mode and 30% plus strength from the Dark Bargain. Plus, if you have any boosts for him, you're going to be hitting the cap on his multiplier. So it actually is a very high damage command just by having Dark Bargain on yourself. So it's a good burst, solid burst, very basic by today's standards, but still very good. And here's the thing that really just blows Cloud out of proportion. It's his USB. Does wind and dark damage for some reason. I guess he has some skeletons in his shady past. I don't know, whatever. Grants X Soldier and Cross Slash to the user. So, while a lot of other USBs grant one status and a little bit of effect on the side, or in Shadow and Edge's case, it grants him one status. Cloud's grants him two, which doesn't mean anything if both of the statuses are bad. So let's go take a look at them and see if they're bad. Spoilers. They're not. So Cross Slash, while being very basic, not a whole lot of text going on here. It's very important text. That is critical chance equals 100%. You always crit. Pretty important. And Soldier. X-Mode Soldier is a 15-second duration, while Cross Slash is 25. Important. Increases physical damage dealt by 30%. This is gross. That's just a flat damage increase. I mean, the reason why people say that Cloud's USB is better used as an RW is because of all of this and the fact that he only has the ability, since he's not a celerity character, to hit for 4 hits with his command 1 on his burst soul break. Which is good, but better in the hands of someone that can find a way to increase their damage beyond the regular 4 hits. Allows physical attacks that deal physical damage, missing HP, fixed, or fractional damage to break the damage cap. And now we just wipe out what I said previously, and I did that purposely, because he is not limited to 4 hits. A very frequent theme that I've gone over on many bursts, and many characters, hey, they're limited to this amount. This is their damage potential. They can only do 40k per turn. This USB literally breaks that and allows them to exceed those limits, because it now turns everything into an OSB. So something that was once gated to 40,000 damage, like Cloud's Command 1, is now gated by 400,000 damage. It's a fairly large difference. And it's important because he can increase damage output so severely due to his crit rate 100% and the increased physical damage by 30% on commands that were already going to be close to capping if you're like exploiting vulnerability. So he is a good wind character by himself, but this USB enables a lot of things. He's one of the best wind characters by himself, and he's going to be S tier. But it is a good USB, or sorry, why is USB? It's a good RW as well. So, yeah, I know I guess the one thing I can go into about what this does is you can further super boost his ability damage because his crits will still only do 150% damage. While if you add a crit damage increaser like something that shares the banner with him, Zack's CSB, his Wind CSB, increases critical damage by 50% additively, means that all of his crits now do double damage and they're able to exceed damage caps. So both of them used together is a match made in heaven, and does it just annihilates wind. Wind is not a difficult element. It has some of the strongest options in the game going for it, in both physical and magical. So let's take a look at his Legend Materia, because that's a ranked S as well. We have physical attacks deal 10% more damage, sure. 35% chance of dual cast combat abilities. Now we just broke open yet another aspect of him. That's a high chance to quit dual cast, and everything that he does is combat. I suppose you could theoretically use this with something like Omega Drive, but Cloud's a wind character. You're not getting the damage boosts that he can get with wind, which allows him to exceed that damage cap that the USB enables. So really, this is meant to be used with his burst. I suppose he could be a force of non-elemental for you if you really need it to, but he's definitely a wind-focused character. And, oh hey, 35% chance to quick cast one to the user after using a wind attack. Let's just add insult to injury. Yeah, so Cloud is an S tier, and he's a wind powerhouse. Next on the list, we have Tifa. Well, this one will be easy. Oh, God, one second. Sorry, I'm still on the tail end of this cold, and it's affecting my ability to talk sometimes. Alright, next on the list we have Tifa. Oh yeah, she's standard burst. Not only standard in entry with the haste attached earth and burst mode, but standard commands too, with the earth-based 4 times single target command and a 2 times group command. Standard has an OSB, so point for her, and she has a USB meteor drive. 10 single attacks, grants haste, radiant shield 100%, and high regen to all allies. Pretty cool. Doesn't have any special status or anything attached to it, but it's kind of neat. It's a better source of radiant shield than a lot of the alternate options to Alphino, because there's a lot of time you don't want to use Alphinos because you have another source of attack and magic 30% already and it doesn't stack. So this is a good one to use instead. The haste is nice, high regen's fine, and it does a little bit of damage. Tifa, do you have a Legend Materia? You do. 30% chance to quick cast 3 to the user after using a monk ability. Increases earth damage dealt. Can we move her to A due to these things? I don't think so. I think she needs more. Yeah, I mean, she needs more. She's really basic in what she does. The utility USB is nice, but it doesn't synergize with the rest of her. You know, chance to quick cast 3 after using a monk ability. Just, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really synergize as well. So she, B. Her BSB commands are Monk, yes. Let's see, we got Yuffie. Big pool here, water. Thief 6, Ninja 6, Dancer 4, and Shooter 5. She doesn't have Shooter 5, but we'll get that with the buffs. When that is, no idea. BSB B rank, it's a good water BSB. Legend Materia has a question mark, because you'll see in a second. And Complementary B. Let's see, Soul Breaks. Yuffie's BSB, Guardian Wutai. We went over something basically almost completely similar to it in Edges, but 5 group instead of 5 single. The commands are a little different. They're a little more similar to Layla's, where she gets 4 single ranged attacks on her first command, and 2 single ranged that deals that. And here's the nice part: is it's also elemental. Where I think another mug command we looked at, I forget who, the mug like debuff was not elemental, but this is attack and defense minus 20%. It's the same status as Mug Bloodlust, which is a positive and a negative. One, it's reproducible by an ability, but on the other hand, Yuffie has a really nice ability pool, and her ability slots are actually fairly high value. So being able to carry Mug Bloodlust in a burst command opens up her ability slots to be used on other things. So good and bad at the same time. I'd say more good though. And we have the Ninja Cast Time first command. She's a great source of water damage. So I'd rate the BSB as B. We have a USB 4, which is quite powerful. We have an Instacast Water BSB that does 8 single attacks, does an attack and defense minus 50% debuff, which is a really nice debuff, and restores HP to all allies for 40% of their maximum HP. This is a good USB, outclassed by a lot of these super USBs that we're seeing, but still good. I consider it a solid part of her kit. Right now we're looking at a character that is defined by their BSB, really. And the fact that she is getting Legend Materia, and this is the question mark, these bases are open on the spreadsheet because we have a projected Final Fantasy VII event coming very soon that I believe focuses on her and Sephiroth. Sephiroth's not on here. Not as like a story duo, but I think both of them get benefits, so Sephiroth is going to most likely get his Legend Materia open there as well. And really, it's the character's grade is in limbo because of it. I'd rate her as C tier, unless she gets good Legend Materia, which she most likely will, which will bump her up to B tier. And if she gets more soul breaks, that has a potential to bump her up to A. She has a very, very good burst to build around. She just needs the tools to advance, and she can get there. Right, that's true. But we do know that I feel like this is a very strong indicator. I mean, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I just know that they wouldn't... I can't imagine them adding these without seeing some code in the data mine for Yuffie. Alright, so C tier Yuffie for now. With a provisional that she could go to B or A, depending on what comes. Next on the list, we have Vincent, which was the surprise S tier on the mage list, and is one of those crazy characters that is able to almost seamlessly transition between physical and magical, so he appears here as well. Has a crazy ability pool, where he is fire based, and I put the Black Mage 6 here, even though it's not, physical oriented, because it shows another facet of his character, and it's valuable. The fact that Vincent is able to fit on both a fire physical team or a fire magical team. So some people will have groups that have, Locke's BSB, and Raffia's BSB and stuff like that, and they have a physical fire team. Vincent works on it. Or some people will have Papalimo's fire BSB, which is a force of nature by itself, and they're like, okay, well, now I want Vincent to be a mage to work with that team. He can do both, and that's why that's here. Support 4, excellent. Not as valuable on physical, but we know it's great. So they can do breakdowns instead of take full advantage of Wrath. However, I want to make a comment about Wrath and the fact that it's not as damaging for a physical character as it once was. It gives you, in addition to giving you 180 soul break points, it also gives you a plus 3% attack buff, which will overwrite single stat attack buffs like Minfilia's Super Soul Break or Edge's, or no, not Edge's, Rams's Shout or Zack's Chain Soul Break for Wind. It will overwrite those, but it will not overwrite dual buffs like Onion Knight's Burst Soul Break. It will just give him 3% more attack. And that's a benefit that you can see in certain compositions. We have Summoning 4, not that great. Darkness 5 is good for both physical and magical, with the darkness, or the dark bargain access and Memento Mori access. And Shooter 5, which will be very relevant for Vincent, because he is a fire physical, and his BSB is a little awkward, but good. And the Shooter 5 just enables him to be able to hit area of effect and to be able to do physical fire damage, because I don't believe he can do that anywhere else in his kit. Yeah, that's his fire damage and his ability pool. So let's go take a look at his BSB and stuff. So when Vincent's BSB originally came out, he was pegged as a kind of a forget this character, because he was split between physical and magical. Depending on whether or not you have a higher attack or a higher magic stat, it will do that type of damage. And grants Radiant Shield 100% to all allies, and grants haste and burst mode to the user. I consider the ability to swap between each to be a benefit. So that small benefit plus Radiant Shield plus 100% is an interesting aspect of his BSB. Taking a look at his burst commands, we have 4 single attacks, 0.65 multiplier if the user has any doom, and 4 single attacks multiplier if the user has any doom. The difference between the commands is one is physical and one is magical, again playing into his theme. And remember, you can add doom to yourself through physical and magical means. Right? I'm not going crazy here. Death Throes. Yes. Death Throes, the 4-star physical darkness ability. Causes light doom to the user and plus 30% attack to the user for 50 seconds. So it is Memento Mori for physical. So that's a thing. Also, interesting that you can overwrite the 3% attack buff from Wrath with this. So you could potentially Wrath up, then use Death Throes, and then launch into his BSB, and we'll see his USB combo. But since he is combat enabled, you could just Life Siphon instead too, and it's probably a little more simple. And won't, yeah. So what makes Vincent a good character, as good as he is? So it's his USB, which is really just an absurd mess of things. which is attach fire, which we really like to see. Remember the dual attach fire thing that I talked about in previous ones? We don't have to worry about that here because he gets attach fire and he gets a radiant shield from his burst. So if you use them together, that's totally cool. Ex Cerberus status, quick cast 1, and a Cerberus attack or magic to the user. Cerberus attack or magic means whichever is higher, your attack or magic, one of these will proc. And it's just a unique status plus 30% attack buff. So you probably, we're moving into the area where you probably don't even need Dark Bargain or Death Throes anymore because he's got a lot of attack buffs working for him. Let me see. We got Quick Cast 1, which is going to be one of those chain quick casts because of Ex Cerberus. I do believe he gets Life Siphon, right? I could be wrong. No, he doesn't have combat at all. So yeah, that support thing is highly relevant. Sorry, my bad. Cerberus. Ex Cerberus grants quick cast 1 after using a fire attack. It's one of those chain things. So you start out with quick cast and then you just use a bunch of fire attacks, which includes soul breaks, by the way. And you just keep on going, and sometimes you're going to need to feed that with an ability, and that's why I suggest using Wrath and the 5-star sharpshooter ability. So you can Wrath out his 2 soul breaks and then just go on an infinite chain until the end of the fight. So right now, because we have one of these chain abilities, we have an A tier character, I think, and his great ability set and stuff like that. So what could potentially push him to S? And that is his legend materia. We have increases fire damage dealt by 10%, and his other 2, which are 25% chance to dual cast, already very good. That's his LMR. And his last one, which is a very important part of his capabilities, so you're going to want to find a way to get Vincent down to 20% health. Because Gallian Beast is a really, really good benefit, where it doubles his cast time for 25 seconds, just doubles his cast time. Again, allowing him to machine gun using his dual cast and his quick cast, and gives him 20% all stats except speed, including accuracy and evasion. So, I am a little torn with Vincent because, as we found out, he doesn't have life siphon access, so he's reliant on that Wrath. And the fact that he's a reliant on being dropped below 20%, which can be done, but it can be a large inconvenience at the same time. I'm okay with it because I think in his Wrath cycle, when you're getting up to being able to use his USB and BSB together, I feel like him dropping below 20% is a real possibility passively, so you don't have to actively help him do that. And then there's always, dual, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If you have another physical member in the party, they can life siphon on Vincent to reduce him below 20%, and that's a thing too. Vincent will put out an obscene amount of damage if you have all of these things active. Are you good enough for S? You are a really high damaging character. I think he is. Because it is worth, there is something worth the fact that he's also a really good black mage. It is such an added benefit to him as a character. And that's something I'd want to rate him on, like in an overall tier list, but yeah, no, I don't know. I see. I'm not gonna pull on him. I personally have a disposition like more favorable toward other fire thing. I don't know. That's not even true. Because I don't know if I'm going to be pulling on the Final Fantasy III Raffia banner either. I'm not. It's not in the scope of this analysis. So I'm going to put Vincent. I'm going to put Vincent in A for the moment. With he may be qualified for S, and that's something I'm going to go over at the end of the stream tomorrow, which is readjusting the S, A, and the B tier as we go over the characters and see how they compare to each other. I think he's on the edge. I'm just gonna place him in A because I think I'm more likely to remember that I need to reevaluate him at the end. That's all. He's AS, yeah. Moving on, we have Zach. Wind Celerity 6. Not a whole lot going for him, but the Wind and Celerity 6 is really all you need to do damage sometimes. BSB is B. It's a good attach or Imperil Wind BSB. Legend Materia A and Complementary B. Complementary B is solely because he has the Wind Chain, and it's a pretty good Wind Chain. Legend Materia A. So BSB is pretty basic. Don't have to go into it too much. It's just an Imperil Wind. Grants haste burst mode to the user. Random ranged, that's good. Here is the super and nice cool benefit to Zach's Imperil Wind is it's celerity slash ninja cast speed. Ninja cast speed being 0.83, this one being 0.6, just like Layla's. So Zach moves like the wind. He is celerity. So you don't mind the 4 single 2 group because you have a really fast commands, and that's awesome when you're considering that this is an Imperil, and the faster you're able to attack, the faster you're able to accumulate Soul Break, which is definitely good when you consider that Zach has a really good chain wind that goes together perfectly with his Imperil Wind. They work together very well, and it breaks my heart that they're not on the same banner. Chain Wind is attack 30 or plus 50% to all allies. Grants critical damage plus 50% to all allies, and Wind Chain 20%. So he loses a damage component and adds one of these. Let's choose grants critical damage 50% instead of a damage component, which is weird since he's unable to advance the chain on cast like someone like Garland can 22 times. And it's one of those conditional things where it's almost a useless buff if you don't have crit fix to 50% or 100% in Cloud's example enabled with it. It really is just riding in a sidecar next to Cloud's USB. They're really meant to go together. There are enough crit fixers in the game where I don't consider just simple crit damage plus 50% to be too much of a detriment, but there it is. It's just a good chain, and wind is an element that a lot of people can benefit from. So wind is a powerful chain, and attack 50% is obviously a good thing to have. Zach, Legend Materia. Starts off with haste and instacast 3 at the beginning of the battle. That certainly helps. Celerity abilities deal 15% more damage. That is nice if his burst commands do celerity. We'll check that in a second. Soldier's Chase. I love how they say that. 50% chance to cast an ability. That just a small little wind damage ability after using a celerity ability. So please tell me your commands. A celerity, they are. So this all works together. It's a nice little tapestry Zach's going here. Limited, but very potent, and I'll put him at A. Because I really like the stuff that he brings. Okay, next we have Sephiroth. Sephiroth's a weirdo. Since he has a really interesting interesting and unique Burst Soul Break 1, I'm going to be rating him according to his Burst Soul Break 2. Not because his Burst Soul Break 2 is necessarily better in all situations, but because his Burst Soul Break 1 is just weird, and I'll just talk about it in depth instead. But his BSB 1 is worthy of the A slot, because not only he doesn't just get an increased multiplier with having higher attack for his first command, the 4-hit Dark, he gets an extra attack, which is more damage potential and increased multiplier. So Sephiroth has a really nice Burst Soul Break 2. Samurai 6 is fine. It gives him Hailstorm access, so that's fine. Don't really care about the elemental stuff. Probably not the retaliate either, since he's not a knight, even though he very well could be. Darkness 5, however, is a really nice part of Sephiroth, because of his Burst Soul Break, and the new Darkness physical abilities coming are good additions to his kit. Sephiroth, Burst Soul Break, Octaslash, that's what we're going to evaluate first, is 8 single attacks, grants haste, dual blink 2, and attach dark to the user. Added effect, we have the typical plus dual blink 2. Dual blink 2 means it's a blink that affects both physical and black magic attacks. It's good, really good. Nice little bonus. However, say you get hit by a physical attack, that'll reduce it to dual blink 1. You get hit by a magical attack, that'll further reduce it to nothing. So it's not you get 2 of each. You just get 2 that can absorb both. Yes, it is. So yeah, I mean, that just goes to show that this little interesting little runner on Sephiroth's BSB2 is actually a primary component for Y'shtola's USB, which is what makes it so laughable. So Octaslash, like I said, the first command is 3. What? There we go. It's 3 to 5 single attacks at 750, and the top tier, the 5 single attacks, is available at 1180 attack, or 1180. It's actually kind of easily obtainable with Sephiroth. He has a lot of damage boost going for him. You got Hailstorm, you got Dark Bargain on his second command. You're in burst mode. Yeah, he can get up there pretty easily. So it's a very good burst, and works together with Darkness ability as well. So he can use that dual Drain Strike with Attach Dark to dual 20,000 damage if you want, and heal yourself for, I think, 40% of the damage dealt, which is it's 8,000 damage. And Sephiroth naturally has a high attack, so that works with his command 1 too. So taking a look at his Burst Soul Break 1, which is unique. Old on entry, we only have haste and burst mode on entry, and it's non-elemental, I believe. Yeah, it's non-elemental. But we do have a fire command if you really need it. 4 single attacks, it does fire damage. Whatever. He has no really way to boost that, so it's just kind of middling, intermediate. But the thing that defines his Burst Soul Break 1 is the first command, is his 2 non-elemental attacks that ignore defense. Which makes this an interesting Burst Soul Break to use in situations where, like, a prohibitive amount of defense on enemies, which thank you for the follow, Dr. Roxas. it, you know, by ignoring the fence, it really just disobeys. And when you can disobey stuff like that, and it happens often in Magicite dungeons, I believe, where they want you to they want you to exploit an element to overcome a boss's huge defenses, whereas Sephiroth can waltz in with his BSB1 and say, oh, I'm just going to use my BSB1 and I'm going to do a lot of damage anyway. He can do that. So if say you're on the poison Magicite dungeon, you have 2 poison characters and you're looking for a third person to fill the slot, Sephiroth can come in and do that for you, because he can still... He doesn't need to obey the exploit mechanic to do a lot of damage. Right, Merc says Cough Golem, right. Yeah. So it's a really interesting burst, and definitely worth noting in his kit. He has an OSB. It's very basic, but has an added effect-ish. And the fact that he does it dark and fire. So it's basic in the fact that it does 2 elements, but it loses an elemental component. I'm fine with this. It means he's less versatile, I guess, since you need to use him in dark and fire instead of being the best in dark, and then it works well in other, like, omni-resist fights except for 1 element. I'm fine with it because, again, say you have his Burst Soul Break 1 and you want to walk in, have him waltz into the Fire Magicite, he could do that with his OSB and BSB1, disobeying defense and then OSBing for exploit. So it's fine. It's not I'm not going to consider it a huge positive just because of the way OSBs work, but it's cool. Sephiroth, Legend Materia. Doesn't have Legend Materia. This is a big mark against Sephiroth right now. I'm going to have to put him in B tier until he has Legend Materia, because as is, he just has an A tier burst with some interesting stuff on the side. And I don't think that interesting stuff on the side is enough to progress him to A. But as I believe or hope, or am theorizing that he gets Legend Materia in the next Final Fantasy VII event, which should be within the next month in Japan, that will allow him to move up. Yeah, that would be an interesting USB. It sounds like something Sephiroth would do. Who else we got? We're almost there. Sid 7, Win, Dragoon 6, Machinist 6, Burst Soul Break is a B, no Legend Materia. Complimentary B. Dragon Dive. Jeez. Oh. 8.0. Well, that's a high multiplier. Remember that Savin Burst Soul Break where he had to have like 1700 attack to get a 7.0 multiplier? Well, Sid just has an 8. He laughs at you. Does 10 attacks too, just like Sabin. So if you're chaining, this is perfect. Oh, poor Sabin. Sid, Final Fantasy VII. His 2 commands are 4 single attacks, 5 attacks of displaying elemental weakness. Good. Like that addition. 2 group attacks, 3 attacks of exploiting elemental weakness. Good. A tier burst. It just does perfect things. Does he have stuff to back it up? Grants haste, attack 50% for 25 seconds. Great. Love it. Perfect utility, complementary soul break. 12 random attacks, grants no time 3 to user. Don't like it. His burst commands are good, and they're part of what makes him good. Sky High is not a must for Sid, so Nowhere Time 3 is not a thing for him. And if you're using the 12 random attacks to advance a wind chain, you're not really getting that much more than his burst. Really, Sid is his burst and Pilot Steal. I guess the best part of Big Brawl is the fact that it's on a wind hat, which has a high magic stat on it, which doesn't even work that well for Sid. So Sid with his A tier burst is going to be B. And Pilot Steal. That is a very important part of him. Yeah. Please don't forget that Celeste is S tier knight and a borderline S tier combat before you get your panties in a ruffle. Moving on. We have Reno. Lightning, Celerity 6, Machinist 6. Burst Soul Break is a B, which is, it's good. That iteration command on it is actually quite good. And Complementary D. Turk Triad, Lightning Elemental, grants haste, attach, blah, 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 blah. So he has an iteration command going for him. Similar to, it's exactly the same as Furion's, but where Furion's is holy and he doesn't have an attach holy effect added onto his, Reno is different. His iteration is lightning and it's an attached lightning burst. Really, really exceptionally good in Torment and actually good elsewhere as well. Because, see, in Furion's case, he has the 4 single attacks on his second command that gives him the ability to instacast the next one and allows him to chain that one. So it's actually a really good second command. This one is just a basic 4 times hit second command. While Reno, so that, you know, draws use out of a second and adds it to the first. So I think in most situations, I'd probably use this iterative command. And if you don't feel like using either of these, though this is good single target, and so is this if it's a long fight. Remember that Reno is also a Machinist 5 and has access to Tempest Snipe. If you want a lightning 6-hit attack that works well with his attached lightning for his burst. So that's a neat little ability that works well with that. It's a good burst. It's a good burst. However, Reno doesn't have anything else going for him. It's so rare that his weirdo Turk Bombshell 100% silence and sleep is useful, and I can't really consider it that much to his credit. And since it's the only thing going for him and no Legend Materia, I'm gonna have to put Reno at C, even though I do like his burst, and I think his burst gets really fun. There's a fun factor to his burst because doing 8 N element attacks with his iterative command can get super. Just unfortunately, that's all he's got. Oh yes, we got to the bottom of the list. I'm not even gonna go look at Rufus. The strength of Rufus is as a Sid mission character because he has a expansive and strong pool of abilities. White Magic 4, Support 4, Darkness 5, Shooter 5. He's actually a very strong Sid mission character. Because he doesn't need soul breaks to be good. Which is great. Because he doesn't have those. He's got one, and it's not even that good. It's just an Imperil Dark. But he works great, fit onto a team in Final Fantasy VII. In case you need someone to, protect Urshelga, or more breakdown potential, or do damage for elemental damage with the darkness and the shooter. He's actually a good submission character. And I do suggest leveling him for that if you're a submission player. Just remember that they'll always be there. And it doesn't have a burst soul break, so yeah. He's E tier as far as in the grand scheme of things. So I will be removing him from the list. He will be unmentioned. With Gao. Gao even has a burst, except Gao's burst isn't even worth using. Rufus laughs at Gao because at least Rufus knows that someday he's probably going to get burst. Gao already has one and it sucks. Alright, so we're done. There's probably a ton of conversation because I was trying to tunnel vision on the list. Yeah, Gao has a burst. Rufus does have style. It is very, very true. So, yeah, this is my time to pay attention to chat for a while. We're going to talk about the first half of this list. Try to stay away from talking about the second half. I know I'm pretty pumped for it too. I agree, Shadow. Rufus as a character does have potential. It does. I love the White Magic 4 support for Darkness 5, Shooter 5. I think that's a great ability pool. Well, spoilers. Cloud also killed Sephiroth, but we've got him, so... anything's possible, right? I did that, Shadow. There's a difference between Edge and Shadow. One is Edge has a... It's their Legend Materia and their ability pools. Edge gets 25% chance to grant Physical Blink 1 to the user after using a ninja ability. Works really well with his entire mechanic. Shadow doesn't get that. Instead, he also gets dual cast, but none of that. Instead, Shadow has Life Siphon access instead. So it helps make up for the fact that Edge wants to use those ninja abilities, while Shadow wants to use his burst. That's it. They're BSB rankings, not the character itself. Oh, Shadows is Instacast. Shadow BSB. No cast time. Dark. Four single 2 group. Edge. 4 single 2 group. Where you at, dude? Not Instacast. That's it. It's the only difference. That Instacast pushes ahead. Oh, sure. Yeah, I should probably post where we are so far. There's going to be a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense because I played a little loose with their tier, and I'm going to rearrange them later. This list is so big, and then we've only done half of it. It's the best way to get this over there. when you're trying to chain together the durations and stuff between burst mode and the USB, you got like 15-second durations. Every half second counts because all of it is supposed to work together. All right. Take a look at this, and I'll be right back. I'm famished. Need some food.